No? What? Stop reading my stuff. Take notes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. First, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, I believe that we have a closed session. City Attorney, could you please give us the citations?
Yes, we'll have two closed meetings, both under paragraph 1 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Okay. Since we have a lengthy agenda with the potential for a lot of discussion, we'll plan to take a 5-minute comfort break just prior to the consent agenda between 6B and 7. Okay. Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. At this point, I would like to note the passing of 2 members of the Manassas Park family, Ann Griffith and Marge Flanagan. Ms. Ann Griffith was a bus driver for 30 years and spent the latter portion of her career driving for the City of Manassas Park schools. She loved the children and her time as a driver. She enjoyed playing cards with family and was a friend to all. Please remember Ann's family in your thoughts and prayers. Ms. Marge Flanagan was a longtime resident of Manassas Park and retired from Manassas Park City Schools, having served more than 20 years as secretary of Manassas Park Schools. She loved the staff, the students, and the parents. She and her husband were avid bowlers, and Marge had a smile on her face for everyone. Please remember Marge's family in your thoughts and prayers. Okay, now please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Councilmember Carrera, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Moving on to public comment time. Do we have anyone signed up on the sheet for public comment?
Do you want me to grab the sheet?
I beg your pardon?
The sheet.
Yeah.
They have
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you. Mr. Tyler Regula, if you could go to the microphone, state your name and address, and speak directly into the microphone. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and City Clerk will be the timer. Thank you.
All right, Tyler Regula, 281 Mosby Drive. I just want to come here today to follow up with the city on an inquiry I had last week regarding the streetlights on west side of Manassas Drive. I reached out to Novec, try to get more information of what it would take to get new streetlights put in so we have brighter lights for pedestrian safety. Again, I just want to follow up with the city and see if they're able to find more information. Keep it short today. That's the one topic I want to focus on. So thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Answer the question. Can he answer the question?
Okay, yeah, just to update. So we are reaching out to Novec. There's 2 scenarios, right? We're trying to get options for changing the all the light pole infrastructure so it looks more modern, looks better, and better lighting as well. We're not too confident Novec will do that. They don't have to do that per the franchise agreement, but we'd like to get some options from them. But at the very least, we'd at least like to have them change the bulbs to more high-intensity LED bulbs to provide better lighting for Manassas Drive.
Okay. Mr. Mike Smith?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the governing body. Mike Smith, 102 Colfax. I hate to take up a whole bunch of your time after Tyler did just such a great job keeping his short and to the point. I do have a few unrelated comments. First, I want to thank everyone that was involved in putting together the last Friday event. We really enjoyed that. Second comment, we drove down Mosby Drive on Friday night after the last Friday event, and that road was a mess with cars everywhere. I don't know how fire or emergency vehicles could get down there, and would like to suggest it be looked into to make Mosby Drive a one-way street. I do have some video. I'll share it on the community forum later this week. And three, as it relates to the driveway discussion, I know that's on the agenda for tonight and is going to be covered in a lot more detail later. I did have a few comments. City manager stated previously that this issue only affected 3 or 4 houses. I don't feel that is correct. There are new double driveways and extra wide driveways going in every week, many of which exceed 20%. And the reason for that is there's just not enough parking on the city streets. You've been hearing for years how residents can't even park out front of their own houses anymore. So I would like to try to get clarification tonight on a few things. When they said 20 feet or 20%, where is that width being measured? Since many driveways get narrower or wider at the street, I'd like to see it in code where they are measured. You can't just pick a spot at random, since that may include walkways or sidewalks. Should be consistent. Also, we'd like to learn what is the definition of an access way as it compares to a driveway. City Code Section 3127B1 indicates there are different use by the use of different terms, such as off-street parking, access drives, aisles, alleys, and paved driveways. When is a driveway an access way? When is an access way a driveway? If one is not used for parking, but for access to a parking area, would it be an access way? City Code states that a parking area must, quote, afford ingress and egress for an automobile without requiring another automobile to be moved. So how does this affect people who have one really long, skinny driveway as a parking area with 6 cars packed into it? I would also like to mention that per code 3127B7, backing directly into a public street is prohibited. So people should have space to turn around and pull safely forward into the street. In our opinion, the best solution would be to encourage residents to develop their properties in a safe and attractive manner so that they're not having to do things like cover their yards with gravel or roofing shingles just to have a place to park their own cars. By encouraging more off-street parking, you will reduce accidents, improve access for fire and emergency vehicles, and improve property values. This is what the city should be trying to do, in our opinion. Thank you.
And go ahead.
Just want to clarify my statement. I didn't say that only 3 houses were, that this only affected 3 houses. I said there was 3 houses that we had code enforcement cases on. There was a brand new case brought to me this week. I'm sure there's plenty of cases across the city. As we determine them, we go out and enforce. Some of them, unfortunately, we find out our grandfather did, right? Built before the code ordinance in 2004. But so there was 3 at that time that we were enforcing. Now there's a 4th. So those are the ones that are enforcing. If we see new ones pop up, people please let us know and we'll go out there and enforce it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next speaker, Ms. Martha Collier.
Madam Mayor, after looking at the agenda, I'll reserve my comments.
I'm sorry, Martha, I can't hear you. Yeah.
I will reserve, after seeing my name on the agenda, I will reserve my comments for later.
Okay, super.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who is not signed up but who would still like to make public comment? Okay, seeing no one and hearing no one, we will move on to, we have 3 public hearings this evening. Our first public hearing, the topic is regarding vendor permits on city streets and sidewalks. I declare the public hearing open.
Good evening. So the reason why these 3 ordinances are coming before you was, as you heard, about a month or 2 ago, our downtown events coordinator presented the program for the downtown. It included multiple events, including a farmer's market. It was determined that we would need some ordinance adjustments to be able to do, to conduct farmer's markets legally in our downtown, and that's the reason for these, along with also we wanted to clean up how the peddler's license process works. If you've been involved in events like Latino Festival, you know that our Commissioner of Revenue was requiring each employee of a food truck to get a license. to come in and get that. It just really inhibited people from coming in. So we want to have blanket licenses that our events team can get and then collect the fees from all the different vendors that we're going to have. So that kind of simplifies that process. But any questions you have on the specifics of the ordinance, the city attorney's on as well to answer.
Okay. Comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
So are we going to go one by one ordinance, or can I ask a question about one of the three?
It should probably go in order, since each of them, you'd have to open and close each public hearing. It probably is best to ask in order.
Okay. In that case, I will reserve my comment for the third ordinance.
Okay. I have a question. Can we please define what neutral content is, or content neutral? It's on page 4.
So I don't know if there's a definition of content neutral, because that's usually a fact-specific determination, but content neutral would be, let's see, give me the exact paragraph you're talking to, please. Talking about?
Exact paragraph. The exact paragraph.
It's 1A, Dean.
I couldn't hear what you, Dean, I couldn't hear what you said. Your voice broke up.
So I have page 4 of 129. Is it somewhere in there? I'm just trying to find exactly where you're
in
talking about.
A, purpose, and it's like the third line from the bottom on the first paragraph.
Oh, I got you. So let's see. The intent is to make sure the constitutional guarantees of free expression and free assembly by providing reasonable content neutral, narrowly tailored time. So our regulations are content neutral. Okay, so we're not placing these regulations on anyone based upon their political views, their religious views, any personal expression. So we want to ensure that the public space can be used to exercise First Amendment rights. And we're not doing this to restrict that in any way. We're doing this solely to make sure that we provide for safety, that the streets and the sidewalks can be used as intended. So, for instance, we're not having people run around in the middle of the street stopping traffic, potentially getting run over, or you'll notice for sidewalks later on, if there's 50 or more people, then we want to have a permit just to make sure that we establish a way for pedestrians to get through without having to walk in the streets. And then also we want to make sure if it's an organized group that they police up afterwards by cleaning any trash that's left around there, and if there's any damage done to any property, that they're responsible for that as well.
Thank you, Dean.
You're welcome. And I just want to point out that this has been in place for many years. To my knowledge, we've only used it maybe once, maybe none. I can't even remember if we've even used it. But I wanted to put in the purpose there because it occurred to me that it wasn't apparent on its face. And I just want to make sure that was in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions on this? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I got a question regarding the sidewalk event. I guess no permit needed if it's 50 or lower individuals in one place. To me, I think that's kind of a lot of people without a permit gathering in one place.
Well, sidewalks are considered to be a traditional public forum. And you don't want to have to make somebody, let's say a small group that just wants to get up and picket in front of City Hall because they're mad about something. You don't want to force those people to get a permit. It's really because the purpose of this is not to try to make things difficult for people to exercise their First Amendment rights. The goal is just to make sure that there's no, like I said, that there's no danger to people that might have to go around them into the street. So if you think 50 is too large of a number, we can reduce it. But I think it should be based upon how many people we think can fit on a sidewalk, in front of a particular building, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I understand the need for making it easier, but I'm thinking if residents drive by a group of 50 people and they're not permitted or the city's not aware of it, I just see a conflict brewing. How the other governing bodies feel like that.
What number do you think is more appropriate?
like, I'm thinking half, like maybe 25 at least.
I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do. I think it should be a reasonable number so that we don't discourage the assembly of people. And 25 is still a fairly large number.
Right. And it's not discouraging. I mean, they could apply for a permit. I don't think that's discouraging people to attend any event or from prohibiting from them to host an event. You know, if they want to do it a proper way, then, you know, we get the permit and they could do it with the code of the city. But 50 people in one place, I mean,
Where are you looking in?
paragraph C,
C.
yeah,
Okay.
on the first page.
Page 4.
1C.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question. So so when someone pulls a permit, do we notify the police department so that they're aware? It's probably more of a city manager.
Yeah, if someone actually applies for a permit, like I remember a couple years ago, someone wanted to do a vehicular parade, and I worked closely with the police there for regulating that as well. So they would have to apply. That was a totally different type of permit, but for something like this, yeah, they would submit the permit. I'd review it with PD and whoever else, park staff, if it's going to be at a park or a plaza, and also confirm with the city attorney, and then make a decision.
Okay. I think 25 is a fair number.
Right, I mean, I think the city should know.
Right, so we could
If
prepare.
there's a large gathering.
Right, prepare not only just the staff, but the residents.
Exactly, yeah. But it's up to the body. I mean, if we're all in consensus to change it to 25, then we can. I don't know if there's any other opinion on the matter.
What is specified right now?
50.
50. I can't find what you're talking about. Are you on?
Page 4.
You're on 4A, right?
We're still talking about the same thing.
Yeah, page 4
on
of the
page
packet.
Oh, yeah,
of
page 4,
129.
yeah, page 4.
24.5C, section C.
Page 4 of the packet.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So can I ask what would be the procedure then if we had a group of more than 25 people protesting outside City Hall and they didn't have a permit? They would be disbanded?
I would confer with the city attorney. I'm not going to speak about it right now, but yeah.
Yeah, because with this verbiage, it says they could have up to 50 people without a permit. Right.
Right, so if we changed it to 25, I'm just asking what would the repercussions be? Since there is a 30-day lead period on this, it kind of prohibits people from protesting spontaneously about something that might have just come up. And I wouldn't want to have some sort of punishment against people who didn't realize that they have 27. I'm just curious.
I agree.
You know, when you stop to think about it, you could have a walking group, like a walking club,
Yeah.
and they could randomly meet, and I can see where they could exceed 25 very easily.
I can just say, I'm sorry, I can just say that if there was an event that had 27 people and they were peacefully protesting, I mean, if you look at the top of page 5, right after the fifth, what is that, the fifth, so, you know, where it says any other information required, right below that it says the city manager or his designee is authorized to consider applications filed less than 30 days in advance. So that would be a situation where if there was a spontaneous gathering that just happened to have more than 25, but they're peaceful and they provide the information above on the spot, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't get the approval of the permit. Is because the point at that time would be if they're peaceful and they're not obstructing the sidewalk, then it shouldn't be a problem. And if it is a problem, the police can just come and kind of, you know, make sure people are not covering the entirety of the sidewalk. I don't think that would be a problem. It would just matter whether or not the city manager was available to issue the permit. That would be the only potential problem with that.
Is there a standard number, Dean?
Well, I had used 50 because that's what I found elsewhere. It's an arbitrary number though. So 25, if you want to do that, you want to do 30, 40, whatever you think is reasonable. Now I will point out that we have a plaza area. That's not necessarily a sidewalk. I wouldn't want this to apply to the plaza area. If people, well, I guess it should, because if people show that they're at the plaza, we wouldn't want them to not be able to have a spontaneous gathering there as well. So we need to take that into consideration perhaps, and maybe that one is better covered by the follow-on ordinance that talks about city property, even though the city street would be closed off for a plaza event, because we talk about events in the umbrella ordinance. But I don't think 25 or 50 is going to be that big of a problem. It's whatever you guys think is reasonable.
I would support keeping it at 50. For example, let's say the football team goes on a sidewalk and wants to do a car wash or fundraise, and they get more than most of the team there. You're at like 40 people. Or like you said, a walking club, it expands. Or let's say a group of the people in our retirement homes just get together and they want to walk. I mean, I think 50 is fine for me. That's my position.
Councilmember Amaya?
I think I'm okay with 50 as well.
50? Yeah. Councilmember Hampton?
I prefer to stay at the 25 so that the city's prepared.
25, okay. What is your preference?
I'm going to go with 50.
50?
I'm okay with 50 as well.
50, okay.
Yeah, mine was 25, reduce it.
Okay, I'm okay with 50, so we'll leave it at 50. Okay.
That's fine.
Madam Mayor, I have a
Okay.
question.
Any other questions or
Sarah
comments?
has a
Yes.
question.
Yeah, I had a question for the city attorney. It does talk about the notice of a denial permit, section I, that the permit can be denied. What recourse does a party or a group of individuals have if their permit is denied?
So they always have recourse to go to court. Okay, and then the issue would be whether or not we improperly denied them the right to have this event.
So there couldn't be a second level of adjudication?
It would be a good idea to. I think it might not be a bad idea to be able to go to the governing body to appeal the decision and ask if the governing body is okay with it. You want me to put something in there to that effect?
Yeah, I would.
Yes.
I already had it.
Agree.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay, I think it's a great idea.
Well, Dean, maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was already in there in page 7.
Maybe it should be near
hopefully it
notice
is.
of denial.
Yeah.
If it is, then that's great.
Yeah, there's
But I don't know
appeals.
off the top of my-
Yeah, within five
appeals.
days following an adverse decision from
Oh,
the
there we
city.
go.
Yeah, the city manager, then they could appeal it to the governing body.
7.
Oh, look at that, we're already in there.
Yeah, so section T.
Oh, section 2.
I thought I had seen that there because I had the same question as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that it wasn't in there, so I'm glad it is. This is something that was done about 10 years ago, so I guess we were thinking things
okay.
through back then.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this isn't new. This is in the code right now. It's just the stuff that's in red underlined, that's the new stuff.
Martha wants to
Sounds
know.
good. Thank you, Dean.
Martha has a question.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You have a question? Question?
We're not in the public
Yeah.
part yet. Oh, we're not?
Well,
I'm sorry.
wait,
Okay.
we're not
Okay.
done.
I'm sorry.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions from the governing? Yes, go ahead.
All right, so, and then my last question is that, what is our police department's protocol if there was a spontaneous protest with a large crowd of 50? Is it to allow them to protest, or is it disbursement, or
Yeah, there's no set
crowd control?
protocol except, again, keeping the peace. So
Yeah.
to Dean's point, if there's going to be a protest of, let's say, 100 people,
Yeah.
right? Then we go out and engage with them and try to get it more information. But at that time, I'd have to get the information from the police department, from engaging with leadership there. We had, I guess, an event like this back in the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
There was no issue, right? We didn't block anyone's ability to protest. The thing we just made it clear is, don't obstruct traffic.
Right.
And we were fine with the protest. So there wasn't an issue back then. So that our always recourse is to always to engage and just make sure that everyone is safe and that they're not obstructing traffic or other people's rights as well.
Okay.
Okay, comments or questions? Any further? Okay, let's move on to public comment time. Would anyone like to make public comment?
On this,
Yes, ma'am.
Martha Collier, used to be LC Place. Who makes the decision whether it's approved or denied? That's not been made clear.
It's a two-step process. So I would initially review, and if I deny it, then the person can appeal it to the governing body.
The city manager,
Correct.
nobody else.
No, and then they can appeal it to the governing body. So if I say no, then they can bring it to the governing body for appeal.
And what could be a denial? What could be a reason for denial?
I'd have to look at the specific criteria, but if they're blocking a specific
So
road.
there is a list that you would refer to, or
Yeah, again, it has to be a peaceful protest, right? So if
definitely.
they're coming out and they're saying we plan on causing damage to XYZ property, that'd be a reason for denial. So every case is going to be unique, so I'd have to look at the factors there. And I'd consult with the city attorney before even making a denial as well to make sure that I wasn't infringing on anyone's constitutional rights.
Yeah.
so the event's on Saturday morning, they get here, they start their event, and all of a sudden it turns into something that was not presented. That's when the police department
You
gets
can,
involved.
yeah, we can shut it down at that point. If they're causing property damage or harming other individuals or obstructing the travel lanes,
Belligerent.
yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to our next public hearing. The topic is regarding permits for large gatherings on city-owned property. I declare the public hearing open. Okay, do you have any?
I can go ahead here because this is another one of the ordinances that was prepared. When we were looking at the umbrella ordinance that's going to be next, I realized that we didn't have anything for events on city property. And so I basically took the ordinance we had for parades and closing down streets, used similar language here. So of course you see the purpose is very similar, but this one here, it talks about 200 people or more using the park, using a park, and that's called an event as well. So we have two places where an event is defined. One was in the previous ordinance. This one's already also defined as an event for this purpose here. And so you can get together as a large family of 199 and not this doesn't kick in. 200, then we expect a permit, but again, for the same reasons. At this point, it's to make sure that trash is picked up, that no damage is done to the property. It's not so much worried about traffic and being able to use the park so much as just making sure they clean up after themselves. Also, it does not apply to gatherings for which Parks and Recreation has a license. So a lot of times they'll lease out portions of parks. And as a matter of fact, Signal Hill Park, sometimes they'll lease out the entire park for a local union, to get together. So this is not applicable to that. So they can do their license the normal way. This is just for gatherings that are not already regulated by Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And this would also apply to the plaza.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mayor?
You answered my first question was about the IBEW having to get a permit, so thank you for answering that.
Yes, they still need a license with the Parks and Rec, but they would not also need a permit.
Okay. Any comments or questions? I have a general question. Is there a safety limit to the number of folks who can, say, for example, gather on the plaza? Did the fire marshal make that determination? Do we know?
Let me get back with you. I'll check with Robbie and I'll get back with you
I'm
with the
just
numbers.
curious. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. In that case, would the public like to make comment? Yes, sir. Please come to the microphone.
Just one question. I apologize if I missed it. Does this only apply to city parks and recreation areas or residential properties as well? So if somebody was having a gathering of 200 people at their house, would they need to get a permit?
This is just for city parks and the city-owned property.
Okay.
So if you look at C on page 9 of 129, it says an application for a permit to use city parks or other city-owned property for an event. So these are events where we're getting either a department of the city is doing something and having, say, vendors or bands or something like that, or a private entity wants to do the same thing, but it's not for private property. That would be a different case. In that case, there you just want to make sure that you weren't impacting your neighbors too much, like with noise or going onto their property or anything like that. And the other laws would be applicable then.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Did that sufficiently answer your question? Yeah, okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving on to the final public hearing. The topic is the creation of an umbrella license for vendors at certain events. I declare the public hearing open.
Actually, I have a question.
Dean, do you have a description that you want to provide?
Sure. So this is the third of the three ordinances that I was talking about. You'll notice here on page 14, right there, subparagraph A, it does refer to events that are permitted under section 24.5 and 17.129. Those two were the ones you previously presented. So if there's going to be an event, then any event that's there, that we have this peddlers and itinerant merchants umbrella license. So as Laszlo was pointing out earlier, without this, each individual peddler has to get a license, and each employee of that peddler has to be included in that. And so it's very cumbersome. It discourages, the types of farmers markets we want to have, the use of the plaza as has been described in the past. It discourages that. So what we did is we looked at Manassas, and what do they do? Because Melissa, who is in charge of these events, she came from Manassas, and so we looked to see what they did. And so this is largely plagiarism. We stole a lot of this from Manassas, tweaked it a little bit to make it more specific to Manassas Park, but it's a tried and true ordinance that they've used, so I'm comfortable in recommending this.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a couple questions. So it says $10 per participating merchant with a minimum of 50. So the merchant has to basically, but no matter how they slice it, they'll have to pay $50 at the minimum for the peddler's license or the umbrella license.
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that. The other question is why the addition about the dairyman clause?
Because it's in state code. We're required to have that in state code, and since we were dealing with this section of the law anyway, it was a good time just to update our ordinance to make sure we are compliant. It's the definition of a peddler has to have that language in there per state law, and since we're talking about peddlers down below, we need to make sure our definition is correct. So yeah, it seems random, I know, but it's something that we're just cleaning it up.
So I could take my cow and make butter with the milk from the cow and just drive around the town and sell it without buying a license? Did I read that correctly?
Well, you'd have to make sure, you'd have to go through whatever state requirements are for selling, milk and stuff. But as far as getting a peddler's license, that's correct. Local requirements, you wouldn't have to do it, but there still are state requirements.
Okay, well, hopefully no one starts driving their milk. It's a little cow. It's a little cow.
Chickens.
Yeah, with the chicken.
It's not really a dog, it's a cow. All right, thank you.
Okay, any comments or questions?
You're
Yes,
welcome.
ma'am.
Okay, so since we're doing the Latino Festival, when is this going to apply, or do I still have to go to Prince William?
Prince William.
I still have to go to Prince William for the
Oh,
food?
to get your business license, and that applies here, you're saying?
Right.
Yeah, so if you guys vote on the ordinance tonight, Dean, my understanding is we'd be good to go moving forward from today?
Yeah, it takes effect as soon as it's adopted. So if you
So I
adopt it
go
tonight,
through-
then
Melissa?
So I will go through the city now versus the county for the peddler's license?
Well, you could have always gone to the city, but, I mean, we recognize the licenses from other jurisdictions, so I think it was an easier process perhaps. That's why some people got it from other jurisdictions. But now you could directly coordinate, since this is a city event too now, the Latino Festival.
But this doesn't apply to the food license?
Oh, you're talking about from a Department of Health standpoint?
Department.
A health department license, yeah, you still have to go to the Department of Health for that, the county, or the district, the Prince William Health District.
Okay, but
Yeah.
now I have to pay for the peddlers under the umbrella for the other vendors. Is that what you're saying?
If they meet the definition of peddler. Yeah. We can talk about it offline. I'll connect you with Melissa, but she's the one managing this program. Yeah.
Comments or questions? Okay, is there anyone who would like to make public comment on this? Yes, ma'am.
At our 4th of July event, we have food vendors, food trucks. How are they handled? I mean, do they have to have a permit now?
They do have to have a permit right now, but it was very cumbersome because they would have to bring in all those employees who were going to be working that day into the Office of the Commissioner of Revenue to file for that permit versus just one umbrella for their business. Now what would happen is they can all work together, or our events coordinator now can go out and work with them to get this license. So it
Be a
streamlines the
permit
process.
for the business, not for all the people.
Well, it would still cover all their people,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
would be done by city employees. It'd be an easier process now, organized by this. So when they go, because right now they have to go apply to, like, let's say Parks and Rec Department or a city department so they can go to the event, and then we're sending them off also to the Office of the Commissioner of Revenue to get the license. Now they can do everything in one-stop shop. So we're making it easier for them.
Good, make it
Yeah.
easier, because that's the biggest event we have in our town, and that's always been a real special thing for me. So make it easy for the people
Yeah.
to serve the other people.
Well, the other thing I forgot to mention, they also have to talk to the fire marshal if they're food trucks.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to make public comment? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Lucy Poole, and I live at 239 Cabell. I have a question. It says city departments and 501Cs. Is that the only one who can have the events? There are companies that do events and put events on. Would they not be able to do that?
That's a Dean question.
Yeah, so it's right now it says a nonprofit charitable organization or city event. So yeah, it's a nonprofit right now. We can change that though. I mean, there's no reason for it to be that way if you want to change it.
Because I know there are companies that do this. I work for the city, and we have companies that come in and put events on the city, on the Manassas Museum lawn. And they get an umbrella license, and they put on their event 2 to 3 times a year. So
That would be on
I would hate to
city
exclude
property.
people.
But that's something that's put on by the public or the city itself, right?
No. We have a company.
Oh, it's not?
No. A company comes in and rents the museum lawn. They do a festival at Christmas time, and they do an event in the summer, and they do another one too. And they rent the museum lawn, and they put on the event, and their vendors pay the meals tax and the things they need to pay. So I would hate to exclude a company that could come in and do an event.
We could add the businesses to this verbiage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should change that.
Okay, so nonprofit, we'll change that, okay.
Can you say that? Please say that again, Dean.
I was just mumbling to myself that we need to change nonprofit charitable organization to, I'm guessing, a corporation or other organization. I mean, it's how broad do you want this to be?
Well, we don't want it to be limiting.
Right, we want to allow for future opportunities.
Maximum,
Okay.
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, you can just say nonprofit charitable organizations and for-profit organizations,
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
something like that.
Okay.
right.
It works.
Do you have the gist of it, Dean?
Oh, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay. So.
Going to be voting on this later, so I'll just have to duck out and come up with the right language here soon.
Okay, so when the time comes to provide the motion as presented, that will cover the change, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
As long as it's clear to me right now that you want to have both nonprofit and for-profit organizations.
Yes, that's correct. I think we're
Okay.
we're in consensus? Okay, yes, there's consensus for that. Okay?
Okay, I got you.
Okay, we're good. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? Okay, seeing no one and hearing no one, do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to recognitions 5A. 5A is a resolution supporting the extension of the Temporary Protected Status Program for Guatemala. Whereas the City of Manassas Park has long shown its support for its immigrant communities, including many immigrants from Central America, and whereas the Temporary Protected Status Program was created by the U.S. Congress in 1990 to allow migrants from countries determined by the executive branch to be unsafe the right to temporarily live and work in the United States without the risk of deportation. And whereas conditions for which a country can be designated for TPS include an ongoing armed conflict such as civil war, an environmental disaster such as an earthquake or a hurricane or an epidemic, and other extraordinary and temporary conditions. And whereas numerous natural disasters have impacted Guatemala over the past several decades, including Hurricane Mitch in 1998, which caused extensive damage and millions of dollars in economic losses. Tropical Storm Stan in 2005, with over 1,500 people dead or missing. The community of Panaba obliterated from landslides and devastating economic losses. The storm of October 2008, which impacted 154 communities by rivers overflowing their banks. The Alta Verapaz landslide in 2009, with over 90 people dead or missing. The Pacaya volcano eruption on May 27, 2010, followed 2 days later by Tropical Storm Agatha, which together left over 300 people dead and missing and caused significant economic losses. The storm of October 2011, which caused the deaths of over 20 people. Earthquakes in 2012 and 2014, registering 7.2 and 6.4 respectively on the Richter scale, which caused the deaths of over 50 people and left many people homeless. The El Cambray mudslide in 2015, which buried 125 homes and left over 280 people dead or missing. The earthquake in 2017, registering 7.7 on the Richter scale. The Fuego volcano eruption in 2018, which left over 400 people dead or missing and caused both human and economic devastation. And Tropical Depression Eta in 2020, which left over 120 people dead or missing and caused severe damage to crops and infrastructure. And whereas Guatemala is still recovering from the damage caused by these natural disasters, and whereas it remains unsafe for Guatemalans to return to their country because of the ongoing damage and recovery from natural disasters, gender-based violence, organized crime, and discrimination against and displacement among Black and Indigenous Guatemalans. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the governing body hereby urges the Secretary of Homeland Security to act immediately to designate Guatemala for temporary protected status and calls on the Department of Homeland Security to grant TPS protection for Guatemalans currently residing in the United States. The motion is that the governing body adopt a resolution to urge the Secretary of Homeland Security to act immediately to designate Guatemala for temporary protected status and to call on the Department of Homeland Security to grant temporary protected status protection for Guatemalans currently residing in the United States as presented. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Do we have the resolution, Lena? For this one, yes. I don't see it on the days here.
No, because remember, I can't do those ahead of time.
Okay. Sure. We have with us this evening the Executive Director of the Association of Guatemalans Without Borders, Mr. Carlos Lam. Would you like to come to the microphone and say a few words, Mr. Lam? And thank you. Welcome for being here this evening.
Thank you very much. My English is not the best. I write something on behalf of our organizations, Guatemalan Without Borders, and Guatemalan community residents of Manassas Park and surroundings. We appreciate your support of granting this resolution in support of temporary protected status immigration benefit for Guatemalans. Thank you, Madam Mayor and honorable council members, for your leadership and support of this effort, because you're doing a great example at national level. We are very glad you're supporting our cause and our fight. This is not done yet. We have a lot of work to do, but this kind of support gives us hope and the courage to still working for our communities. God bless you, and God bless everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lamb. We'll make certain that the resolution gets to you. It will be numbered and signed, and it will be mailed to you. So thank you so much for coming this evening. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we understand if you have something else that you need to do. But you are very welcome to stay. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is 5B. We will honor and recognize Ms. Martha Collier's service to the city. Ms. Collier has served on the following: Board of Equalization from July 2008 to August 2023, Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, January 2010 to August 2023, Planning Commission from October 2019 to August 2023, and as an election poll worker from November 2000 to 2023. We know that you're moving away, and we're going to miss you, Martha, and we're going to miss your wisdom. The city has a plaque, and we would like to present this to you and express our gratitude, the gratitude of the entire city. So let's see, let me give you the plaque here. Okay.
I'm going to say a few words. Don't put me on a timer, Lena.
Oh, okay. Actually, we should have the entire body come down.
Martha, you and I have worked in many election.
I tell you what, we've had some funny ones, I'll tell you. You want me to tell you a bunch of them?
This is yours. Oh, sorry, the young lady was trying to take a picture of us. Come on.
Oh, she wants to be in
There's her.
Yes. Thank you. Heck, everybody come on up. We're all family here.
Absolutely, we are.
Can I make 2 lines?
Scooch in, scooch in. Here, you get in front. Turn at a 45-degree angle, we can squeeze more in. Come on, come on.
Thank you. Congratulations. Deben ser permanente.
No, pero vamos a luchar por
Vamos a
eso.
luchar, deben ser
¿Lo vamos a invitar otra vez?
Hay que traer gente y sacarlos. Que se queden aquí.
Lo vamos a invitar otra vez.
Dile a Wexton que lo haga permanente.
Vamos a invitarlo otra vez en septiembre porque vamos a hacer algo permanente. O
Debe
sea,
ser
para ser
permanente.
permanente. ¿Ok?
Gracias.
Muchas gracias a ustedes. Well deserved, Martha. She's
What an institution.
she's so sweet.
That is so funny.
Yes.
Actually, I came down here tonight and signed up just because I wanted to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of the decision-making in the city. I didn't realize some of these numbers. That's crazy. I was a little kid when I started, I guess, you know. I didn't know they allowed you to work at the election when you were 10, you know. But anyway, everything I have done here has been so rewarding. People say, you work the elections? I say, yeah, it's an event. I mean, Elena and I have been working together for, gosh, I don't know, forever. Yeah. And I encourage everyone to get involved. Sign up. We need volunteers for the elections. We have to really scrape and dig, and we need it. And like I said, it is a very rewarding, and you meet all kinds of people, and you make relationships there, and you only see these people once a year, once every 4 years, every 3 years. And then all of a sudden, some of them aren't there anymore, and you go, whoa, what happened, you know? And now the process is so different. But anyway, again, just for letting me and having the confidence in appointing me to these different committees has been a real pleasure to work. And I encourage everyone. I've talked to Mr. Mike Smith back here. I told him, don't come up here and be a rabble-rouser. Get involved. Be part of the decisions, and talk to your neighbors. And that's another thing. Don't go to your neighbors to find out what's happening in the city. Come down here. It does my heart good. This room used to be full of people every meeting. When I first started coming here, every city council meeting was full of people. And now it's staff and council members and a couple of others. But seriously, get involved. Be part of your community. It is our community. Don't move in here and then complain about why are they doing that? Well, you know, do your homework. If you don't like what we're doing, don't move here. Thank you. Good luck, everybody. Oh, and Laszlo, I will be back because I've got to watch the downtown develop. I've got to see this happen.
Aw.
So I'll be back. I'm not going away.
Mayor, can I say something? Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Martha. Yeah. So I've had the honor now of serving two municipalities, and you're the best representation of a resident who cares about our community, who participates in everything, who gets involved in driving the community forward. And we're going to miss that. We're going to miss your wisdom at these meetings, the common sense values that you bring to it to rein us all back in. So I'm going to miss you. I know everyone from staff is going to miss you as well.
Thank you. I will also say I gave my goodbyes at my church, which I've been going to for 65 years, and that's a hard one. And they told me, you have to come back occasionally just to keep us straight. But thank you, Leslie. That means a lot. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Martha. Okay. Moving on
That was a good 3 minutes.
Oh, how are we going to follow that one? Okay. Moving on to 5C. 5C is a proclamation to display the Veterans Day flag from November 2nd to November 30th. The proclamation is, whereas the honorable service performed in the defense of these United States of America and our nation's cause in time of peace and especially in time of war is the highest form of citizenship, and whereas the greatest acknowledgement of our freedom is to honor our veterans of the United States Armed Forces who have sacrificed and in many cases paid the ultimate price for our freedom. And whereas the men and women who have served in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Space Force, and National Guard of the United States of America have made substantial contributions toward preserving the freedom of our nation and our fellow Americans. And whereas the words of President Eisenhower almost 80 years ago remain true today, let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom, and let us reconsecrate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace so that their efforts shall not have been in vain. And whereas the city of Manassas Park is perpetually grateful for the contributions and sacrifices of our veterans and will continue to remember and pay tribute to our military community, both active and inactive, for their dedication and commitment to the preservation of our freedoms and the promise of liberty established as an example for all the oppressed persons of the world. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City of Manassas Park governing body hereby declares Thursday, November 2nd, 2023, as Honor Our Veterans Day in the City of Manassas Park by displaying a flag of appreciation for our veterans on city buildings from November 2nd through November 30th, 2023, and calls upon all Manassas Park residents to observe Veterans Day on Saturday, November 11th, 2023, with actions and words of appreciation towards our city's veterans in honor of those who have served to preserve the principles of justice, freedom, and democracy. The motion is that the governing body approve a proclamation designating Thursday, November 2nd, 2023 as Honor Our Veterans Day in the city as presented, and direct staff to display a flag of appreciation for veterans from November 2nd through November 30th, 2023, in accordance with the city's flag flying policy. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. And thanks to Councilmember Hampton for bringing this forward. Did you bring the flag?
I sure did.
Okay,
And could we
if you
ask the
wanna-
veterans in the room to stand up first?
Yes, please.
So that we
do.
can
Yes.
honor all veterans? Mr. Harrison?
Okay.
Keith? Thank you very much for your service. We owe you a debt that we cannot pay. The best debt that we can pay, the best way we can pay that debt is by flying. I have my lovely assistant over here to help me. Who's much taller than I. I guess we have to do it the right way. Flying back. Thank you, Martha. We're still going to be lost without you. Is this flag? We will have a ceremony at 1 p.m. on November 2nd, like we did last year. We're in the works of organizing that. We're hoping to have, I think last year we had, close to 100 veterans in attendance. We're hoping to have that, if not more, as well as maybe some representatives from the state. We're in the process of working on that. So we ask all the residents and all the veterans in our community and surrounding our community to join us on November 2nd out here on the plaza at 1 p.m. And once again, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, moving on to 5D. 5D is ratification of a proclamation honoring parents and proclaiming July 30th, 2023 as Parents' Day. Whereas in 1994, President Bill Clinton signed into law a resolution unanimously adopted by the U.S. Congress establishing the fourth Sunday of every July as Parents' Day, a day of commemoration similar to Mother's or Father's Day. Whereas Parents' Day was established to recognize, uplift, and support the role of parents in the rearing of children, and whereas being a parent is one of the most challenging and rewarding of life's experiences, and whereas parents ensure that their children's basic survival needs are met and give their children the love and encouragement needed to gain confidence, motivation, and courage to succeed in life. And whereas parents' love is unconditional, parents provide encouragement in the good times, make sacrifices during the bad times, loving us all the while. And whereas parents are the foundation of our lives, and we thank parents for all the sacrifices they have made and support they have given us throughout our lives. Now therefore, I, Jeanette Rischel, Mayor of the City of Manassas Park, Virginia, and on behalf of the Manassas Park governing body, do hereby proclaim July 30th, 2023 as Parents' Day in the City of Manassas Park and urge all residents of this community to treat all parents with respect and the honor that they so richly deserve. The motion is that the governing body ratify a proclamation designating July 30th, 2023 as Parents' Day as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. This request came in after our July 18th meeting, and of course, we didn't meet for the bulk of the month of August, which is why we are forced to ratify this evening. But anyway, thank you. Okay, moving on to 5E. 5E is recognition of Finance Director Pon Yusuf and Finance Department employees for their outstanding work in financial reporting. Would that be you, Laszlo?
Yes. I can certainly discuss that. And I believe we have the Performance Spotlights Awards. Do you have that there? Or?
I don't have it.
Or Valerie? Do we have those, Valerie? Okay, all right, we'll go get that, but just to talk about a little bit about specifically PON and the entire finance department. I'm not sure how if people realize this or not, but the amount of work that goes into keeping us audit ready, keeping the accounting in the city up to date and accurate. Remember, again, our financial functions are separated between 3 different departments, 2 of which don't work for us either, so we have a lot of engagement that needs to be done. They're independent offices, so the data is not always there for us, for accountants to account for, so it makes it very, very challenging, but Pon and her team does the best every year to overcome that. They inherited a disaster a few years ago in terms of the city being behind in audits, not being able to complete audits, having to restate everything since 2000 to be able to become audit ready again. They inherited a clunky accounting software system as well. And each year they get it done, especially Pon with her hard work. With Pon and her hard work and her leadership of the department, but every employee there who puts in the hours to get it done because of the complex financial systems we have, all the growing demands that I put on them, which includes a bunch of grants that they have to account for. I know they were excited about that. With all the grants, that's great news for us. That's a lot of work on them to do all the reporting to the federal government and to account for it. So the city could not function without Pon's leadership and the entire dedication of the finance department. So I'm honored to be able to work with them. Okay. Can we bring them up now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. If you guys want to join me up here, we'll do pictures.
Picture.
There is a motion here, excuse me. The staff recommended motion is that the governing body recognize the Finance Department and especially Finance Director Pon Youssef for their outstanding service to the city and authorize the mayor to co-sign their Performance Spotlight Award certificates as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. And they will get signed. Okay, next we move on to our Community Maintenance Working Group update from Councilmember Hampton, and after that, we will dive into our driveway discussion, part 2. So,
Yeah, yes, please.
In the back, if you guys can bring up the Community Maintenance Working Group slides, thank you.
So this way to make it go forward?
Yes.
This way to make it go back?
Yes.
This way forward, that to go back. Okay, thank you. All right, well, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. We wanted to, the members of the Community Maintenance Working Group.
can you put your microphone down a little bit?
Oh, yes,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks.
The members of the Community Maintenance Working Group wanted to give everybody an update of what we're working on. And clearly, I have problems. Laszlo. This is evidently beyond my realm of... Did I not press it hard enough?
It's this button, maybe you got to raise it up a little, maybe this was blocking.
Okay, all right, I'll try it.
You want to test it?
Okay, thank you. All right, I just wanted, this slide here just tells everybody what we have accomplished since we started in 2021. Specifically in 2023, we held our first organized citywide spring cleanup. That was back in April, if you all remember. We had about 20 people, ranging from age of 10 all the way up to much older. There was pictures given about that in May. We also received our Keep America Beautiful training. We did that in the springtime. And we've already planned, we planned our first citywide summer pickup, but we had to cancel that cleanup due to the bad air quality in June. But we are going to have our fall cleanup, which will be next month at Costello Park and the surrounding streets. And we'll get to that in a little bit. We are still working on developing the code training. And we're also actually went out yesterday, thanks to Sarah's help, information about the Halloween Houses of Lights, which is our second year of doing that. And we resurrected an old Manassas Park tradition, which is the Winter Lights Extravaganza, which is a house decoration contest in December. Everything's out on the website, so we're encouraging all residents to sign up for both. Do it early, get your name in, and as usual, we're going to work with the scouts to have them serve as the judges. And then you can see we have a number of stuff we still have planned for the outcoming years. Well, you know what? Doing things with one good hand is really difficult. If anybody's interested in the Community Maintenance Working Group and information on the Winter Lights Extravaganza, the Halloween House of Lights, and our upcoming cleanup, find this webpage, go there. All the good information is there. All right. And speaking of the cleanup, it will be September 6th at Costello Park.
16th.
Pardon?
16th.
Did I say the 6th?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The 16th, just look at the picture up there, don't pay attention to me. And just meet us at the rec center around 8:30 in the morning, between 8:30 and 9. And you will see down there is a beautiful logo that Councilmember Amaya worked with the committee to develop. And this is part of Keep the Park Beautiful, which eventually a lot of this work will fall under. Just as a side note, we did receive a grant from Keep America Beautiful, $500, and we're purchasing receptacles for cigarettes and other items for pickups. And that's thanks to Yvette's assistance. And here's some information about the upcoming events. The Winter Lights Extravaganza, we're asking everybody to register before December 13th, as well as the Halloween Houses of Lights to register by October 12th. Whoever is selected as the best house for the Halloween Houses of Lights will have a place of honor at the trunk or treat. And whoever wins the best citywide home for the Winter Lights Extravaganza will be the marshal for the 2024 Winter Light Parade. And, yep, there we go. That's it. That's it for that one. Any questions?
Comments or questions? No, thank you very
How
much.
many-
Oh,
How many receptacles do you get for the 500?
Not a heck of a whole lot.
Then we're getting 6.
Right, and then we're using the extra money to purchase materials to do the cleanups. So like the grabbers,
Yeah, the grabbers
bags.
and stuff, yeah. Gloves and.
The ones we really wanted were just a little too,
Pricey.
yeah. So those will be coming in the near future. Okay, any other questions?
follow-up? No? Okay. Apparently not.
Okay.
Okay,
We wowed
thank
them.
you. Thank you very much. So
right.
we're moving into the driveway discussion, part 2.
Yes, can we pull that PowerPoint presentation up, please?
I don't think I received that one. Did we get that?
It's on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Well, while he's doing that, we'll just kind of give a debrief. So when we met in July, we had the first
No, that's
discussion to
mine.
kind of kick it
Driveway
off.
list is mine.
Today is a little bit more formal discussion with some expectations to come out of this.
Can you email that to us? We didn't receive that one.
It's on the packet.
Yeah,
I know, but we didn't put that one together in the packet. I didn't get that.
But it's on the website.
I know, but it's a PDF document. I didn't get a PowerPoint.
there's a PowerPoint, hold on.
Yeah.
Isn't that it?
That's right.
Yeah, that's it right there.
That's it.
Okay. So we have that one. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Would you mind? So
Is it the bottom one?
it's the one off the right. Go on to the second page, the second slide. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a lot to cover in a short time to get there. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off with a quick recap of our last discussion. The city attorney is going to do a recap of the city ordinances so we can kind of level set our discussion. Then we're going to touch on our goals, what we're going to walk away with today. And then Laszlo or someone from his team will brief us on their research findings, and then we'll go into the heart of the discussion. And there's 4 areas that we're going to touch on. Possible changes to the parking code for registered home-based businesses, and this was brought forward by Councilmember Amaya based on some conversations that we had, and she and I had some long conversations, not only with the city manager, but the city attorney to bring this up to today's discussion. And then we're going to move on to, I guess, the meats and the potatoes of the discussion, which is really to talk about the size ordinance of driveways, and then kind of talk a little bit about backyard parking, as that's starting to rise as an issue. Actually, it's always been an issue, but it's starting to increase more. And then the last one is just to touch on, and this has to do with a call that came from a resident. How do we treat residents when, basically, what is the city's guidance? What is our guidance to the staff when it's street cleaning day and people park in their yard versus guidance to when it's a snow emergency day and they park in their yard? So when we get there, it'll make a little bit more sense. All right, so this is a quick recap of our July 18th discussion. We reviewed the city ordinances, reviewed the approval process to install a driveway. We talked about our past presentations, and we went through some scenarios, and we began the discussion, identification, next steps. On a side note, all of these pictures over here, these are actual driveways pulled from Google Earth. So this is the state of many of the driveways in Manassas Park. For more information, you guys have, the residents don't have this, but you have what I pulled down as the recap from YouTube of our last discussion. And out of the outcome, we had, looks like 4 action items, information on average lot sizes, which is to be determined. We talked a little bit about permittable driveway sizes, the need for a possible town hall down the road about driveway sizes, the addition of a permeable driveway, and exploring the addition of stormwater management to the ordinances. And there's more action items, looking at different jurisdictions. A council member, Javed, helped us look, he actually did some research to look at the impact on home values, and he'll give us a debrief on that. And we also talked a little bit about the impact of no commercial parking restriction, and if we had any additional questions, send the city manager, but I don't think anybody had any additional questions. All right, so with this part, I'm going to take a break and hand it over to Dean to walk through the city codes. Dean, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So when we, this all kind of arose for 2 different reasons. One was the enforcement of the commercial parking restrictions. The ordinance was enacted a while ago, but we didn't have the signs up, so we couldn't enforce. And then we also had some issues associated with driveways. And then on top of that, we had some problems associated with home occupation. So because these were all bleeding together, I thought it was important, and council member Hampton as well thought that we should brief this up so everyone understands what we're dealing with. So the commercial vehicle restrictions are found in City Code Section 2451. It's called commercial vehicle restrictions, but you can have commercial vehicles parked on the site as long as they are also considered permitted vehicles. Okay, and there's a definition of permitted vehicles, which is pretty much any commercial vehicle, but then it has certain weight restrictions for those commercials. So, and that's found in the definition section. So when we're talking about this ordinance, we're really talking about permitted vehicles. There are no commercial vehicles that are allowed that aren't permitted vehicles. They're not allowed to be parked on the streets or in the driveways overnight. Now, during the day, they can, of course. The code sections associated with home occupations make reference to these, in that you can have one commercial vehicle associated with the home occupation, and that, if it's also a permanent vehicle under Section 2451, can be parked in the driveway. Okay, and you can only have one of those per home occupation, and that's found in Section 3132, paragraph C8. And then the total number of vehicles that could be parked on the residential lot, permitted vehicles that can be parked on the residential lot, marries up with 2, which is in the commercial vehicle restrictions. So basically that means if you have a home occupation, one of those commercial vehicles that's also a permitted vehicle can be parked overnight. And then say somebody who lives there also has a vehicle that they take home from work, that one can also be parked there as long as it meets the permitted vehicle requirement. And then finally, the discussion about the width of the driveways, that's in City Code Section 3130, paragraph D6. And that is for single-family lots in the R1 or PUD residential districts. And that is the limitation of 20 feet of width of the driveway, or 20% of the yard width. And that's the front yard width. And that is basically from lot line to lot line is how the front yard width is measured. So that's a summary of the ordinances or the sections of the city code that we need to be looking at tonight.
Okay. All right. So goals of today is basically for us to walk away with, to start developing a solution based on the presented information. And at the close of the work session, we needed a decision on the way forward so that staff can decide, staff can investigate and start putting things in motion, as well as providing guidance for staff. And there's 4 areas that we need to touch on. changes to parking for the one commercial vehicle with homes that have a home occupation permit, changes to the driveway size ordinance, addressing the backyard parking, and then yard parking on street cleaning and snow emergency days. All right. So now we're going to turn it over to the city manager. You need the doohickey back?
Well, it depends. I posted this last night. Have you all had an opportunity to read this? Do you want me to go over it, or do you want to just review that and send me any questions in the future?
I think it would be helpful for you to go over it. Even if we've read it, it's a good review, and the general public, the viewing public, would need to.
Before we go, continue, Dean, can you clarify the width again of the driveway? Where is it measured from?
Okay, so I don't know where the measurement of the driveway itself is. I know that the width of the front yard is measured from lot line to lot line. And then the driveway itself will be measured from the edge of pavement to edge of pavement. And it would be the shortest distance between those two. Okay. Laszlo said earlier that the code enforcement measures from as close to the sidewalk as they can. I imagine that is just so they don't have to go on the property itself. But I think a practical thing to do is if people could get on there would be to measure, if any of it is greater than 20 feet or 20% of the width of the front yard, anywhere along there, that would be the violation. And not just measuring at just one spot. Because they're not, not all driveways are necessarily uniform width.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. All right, so I was asked a series of questions at the last meeting to prepare for this meeting. That's what I'm going over tonight. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the first question was the number of driveway permit applications that we received. You can see in calendar year 2022, we received 11, and so far in 2023, we received 11 applications as well. For stormwater impact and flooding, those are kind of two separate issues. One is kind of quality maintenance, but also flooding, and then the other is purely just flooding. So again, our MS4 permit, of course, discourages any additional additions of impervious surfaces in our city. We wouldn't necessarily get fined if we expand the width. It's a general discouragement of doing so. Where it would impact, of course, is what we've seen especially on the west side of the city. When we talk about flooding, it happens when there's a fast, impactful rain event where our current infrastructure that conveys the water out off of the streets, too much water comes on. Think about your bathtub, right? When you pour too much water on, it takes a while for it to drain. That's what we're seeing there, causing flooding. So any additional impervious surface that you're going to add is just going to contribute. It's going to push water onto the street a lot quicker and make that problem worse. But again, it's going to depend how much additional feet you're going to permit that would create that problem or not. And then also we get complaints from residents for nuisance issues such as soggy yards, standing water. This would just exacerbate those issues. Pros and cons of requiring permeable pavement. So it's a good idea, right? It can't be sold as the be-all, end-all that's going to resolve the problem, because there's a lot more maintenance that's associated with it that most people probably aren't going to follow through with. You can see the example here of the pervious concrete. It requires, conveyance system or underground storage that can get clogged very easy. So if you're not doing the maintenance, you're pretty much just adding additional impervious surface. So it's a good concept. It just doesn't always work out, and it's a lot more expensive as well. But it's something that can be considered, right, for additions. But the likelihood that it's going to be properly maintained in the future is slim. It may work out good in the first year, and then after that, they'll probably end up failing a lot more. And then for research, I showed you this last time. These are our sister cities that we always benchmark ourselves to for debt, for tax, for government performance, right? You can see where they're at in terms of widths that I presented at the last meeting. So Manassas is the only one that provides greater widths than we do, but only for lots that are 100 feet or more. So looking at that, I came back and I recommended that for lots in our city that are 100 feet or more width, that we expand ours from 20 to 27, 27 allowing 3 standard parking spaces of 9 feet each. So that was my recommendation at the last meeting. If we're going to expand, that we be more generous than Manassas if we want to become more generous with driveway widths, and we go with 27 feet widths. We were also asked to look at other Virginia municipalities. So these are the ones that we actually got information back from. You can see some of them actually utilize total square footage versus widths. That's a much more complicated calculation for our staff, so I would advise that we not do that since we have such a small code enforcement and zoning team, right? And that leaves a lot more room for debate on how that's measured, right? From, we would measure it from the very front part of the property, but a lot of properties exist where a piece of the house is kind of sticking out, right? And the rest of it's further back. So there's going to be a lot of debate on how that should be measured. So width is our recommendation for how to measure this. You can see it's pretty standard across, with the one exception that we found was Blacksburg. They do allow a lot more driveway width. They allow 2 driveways on each parcel, and each of them a maximum of 20 feet, as long as they're separated by 40 feet. But they're also a college town with a lot of multi-families or multi-residents living in a single home, but college students, right? So they kind of pack people into homes, and that's why they allow for these driveways as well. So they were the one exception. Surprise, surprise, they're a college towns that are going to operate a little bit different from other municipalities that you see across the region. You can see everyone else, again, they're sticking with the 20 feet, the 25 feet, and then the percentages. I just did some simple math for you because you can see the range between 30 and 35%. A lot that's about 20 feet deep and 80 feet wide, that'd be around 480 square feet to 560 total square feet of driveway. So you can just do the math, right, of, divide that by 2 numbers, right? You can do 10 by 48, right? Or 10 by 56, or you can figure out the math for the different widths to get to that total ratio there. And then the last 2 items, we were asked about rear yard parking. Most jurisdictions follow our code where we allow for rear yard parking as long as it's on a paved surface. There are some exceptions. You can see Winchester prohibits it completely. And then some jurisdictions they'll cap the total percentage of paved surfaces in your front and back lot. So you can see Williamsburg only allows for combined 15% of your total lot that doesn't have the home on it to actually be paved with driveways, either on the front or the back. So that involves measurements again for that. And then for property values, the impacts of if you're going to expand driveway widths dramatically, what would occur? We weren't able to find any conclusive studies. You can see the Appraisal Institute says that just unsightly yards, right, can certainly reduce the values of neighboring properties. So if you consider having a lot of cars in your front yard as unsightly, right, some people may interpret that could have the potential to decrease property values. But as I've been saying in the town halls, in this market, what's driving home values is supply and demand, and supply just being way low than demand. So I don't see housing values necessarily falling because you're expanding driveway width. I think the market's it's going to play a much bigger factor on housing values than driveway widths. So that's all I have.
I have a question.
Sure.
Regarding rear yard parking. Currently, we allow it as long as it's paved. Is there a cap? Is there a maximum?
I don't believe we have a percentage cap on that like you can see Williamsburg does. We do not.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So technically, they could pave up their entire backyard
Yeah,
of impervious surface.
that's correct.
Yeah, and there's a few
Oh.
houses that are pretty darn, based on the aerial view, pretty darn close.
Pretty close to all of it, yeah.
And there's many that aren't paved. It's grass or what do you call it, gravel.
And if they're unpaved and the neighbor allows us to go and see it, then we can take
Right.
action. Yeah.
But you have to get the, somehow,
Be able to see it.
right.
Yeah.
I think Hasib had did some research on property values. I think, Hasib, you want to talk to us since we just touched on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like Laszlo said, there's no evidence of it, but it's all about what the buyers want in the house. And long driveways to accommodate the 2 vehicles is an added value. And anytime you add value to a house, the property, increases in value. Now, we can't assume that buyers are coming in with 10 cars, right? So, if they have 2 cars and they have a big driveway and a lot of buyers are flocking to that one property, then that value is going to go up. The flip side of it, if you have a house next to another house with cars in the front yard, 10 cars, commercial trucks, that property looks undesirable, right? So that value next to that house will probably, the property value will go down. So, I mean, that's the only information. Like I said, there's nothing on the appraisal, and like I said, supply and demand plays a big role in it. I mean, it's just what the buyers want. Some people might want 3 bedrooms, or they could accommodate 3 bedroom, but want 4, but they don't need a 4th bedroom. But you can't assume that they're going to rent out the 4th bedroom, right? It's just what the buyers could use the extra space. Same thing as a driveway, right? So that's the only comment I have regarding that.
So we're not sure. We're not, okay. Okay. Comments or questions on the presentation? Anything?
Well, the question, I guess the dean, can you, publicly, you know the question I wrote in the email about the difference between a driveway and access point?
Yeah, I'll be happy. So a driveway is a private driving, or a private road essentially from and to a parking area from and to the street. So it's either a garage or a carport or something like that. It does not require an easement, okay, because you're using it for your own property. An access way is typically associated with an easement, and it's because someone other than the property owner needs to get back to access a facility or an improvement of some sort back there. And so it typically is meant for access only. There's typically not parking allowed along it that would obstruct the access. Sometimes parking can be done up near the facility itself, but as far as getting to it, you wouldn't be able to just park there randomly. So the big difference is there's usually an easement associated with an access way or an access drive or access road, whereas a driveway is traditionally just on the property and owned by the owned and used by the guests, invitees, and owner of the property itself.
Okay, thank you for that. Yep.
Okay. Yes.
You're welcome.
Dean, could you reiterate the point about grandfathering and the dates that take place for those homes in our community that have 2 driveways but are grandfathered, and what that date is?
So are you looking for the specific date that the law was changed? I'd have to look that up real quick and see when the ordinance was passed. But grandfathering means that if you had if you legally added another driveway before the code was adopted by the governing body, then you're grandfathered in, and therefore, unless you decide to expand your driveway, you would not have it would be grandfathered in. You would not have to do anything to it. You just wouldn't be able to expand the nonconformity. As far as the date itself, let me see if I can find that real quick.
And just to clarify, it's not the 2 driveways, it's the width, the total width. Again.
Right, the total width of 20 feet or 20% of the width. So, real quick here, it looks like that was back in 2004 was the last time that code section was amended. I don't know if it was specifically for that purpose, but it's at least anything that was done after 2004 would definitely be required to comply with this.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, it's just prospective too. So it's just when you want to add something, so if you had a driveway that was in compliance and you added, a second level to your house, and suddenly you have to have additional parking, then you'd have to see whether or not you could actually park it on your site with the limitations on the width of the driveway. And if not, then you wouldn't be able to add the additional living area because you wouldn't be able to park it properly.
No, that was it. Thank you.
I have a question.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. Did someone say something?
It was just Dean. He said,
Okay.
You're welcome.
I have a question. If we were to cap the amount of paved surface in the backyard, is that enforceable?
It's the, well,
Actually, can we table that till we get to the backyard discussion?
Sure.
Yeah. But Yessie, can you kind of keep like a parking lot?
Yeah.
Thank you.
so any other questions on this?
Well, I got another question on the driveway for this one. It might be a Dean question. So, I mean, not long ago, I think we passed an ordinance or a code stating that single-family houses need to have space for 2 vehicles. And now I feel like it's contradiction if we're asking residents to remove it. How would that accommodate the new code change?
Right. So can we?
Well, that I can answer real quick, and that's a prospective again. So any new development that comes in or any additions to a single-family dwelling would have to have that number of parking spaces there. But that's prospective because everything's grandfathered in behind it that was already here.
And just to add, go ahead, Dean.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so if someone was applying to do an addition, and by meeting the parking requirements, they would have to violate this law, then the addition wouldn't be approved, because they'd be violating this law.
Right.
Follow? No.
Can we, so we've got 4 things we have to discuss, and so that we can kind of get through it and get everybody out before midnight?
Can Laszlo reiterate the reasoning behind how many houses were affected? Can you explain that again for the benefit of the public?
Affected how?
By the width of the driveway, and how many have come into compliance, et cetera? Can you review that again?
Sure. Again, so we're getting new information every day from different driveways that we go out and investigate, so it's a fluid situation. So at the last meeting, I said there was a total of 3 cases, 2 of which have come into compliance, and now this week I was informed about a new case as well in Upper Kent of the same thing, of the driveway widths that we're taking enforcement action on. So far, it's a total of 4 cases. That doesn't mean there's other cases that aren't in violation. We investigate when we see this. We found this one as part of the transportation project we had there. When Calvin was walking the street, he noticed it, and zoning went out to check it, and it was in violation.
Okay, so 2 have come into compliance.
Yes.
Do you have an indication about the 4th one?
Any ideas, Mickey? Are they looking to get in compliance?
What they're thinking?
We haven't issued a notice of violation
Okay.
yet. We just went out to talk to them, but we did confirm it was just done 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, so first step is they're going to have a conversation. So they've already had a conversation with the owner, let them know they're in violation. Hopefully the owner will address it. If they don't, then the next step is notice of violation.
Okay.
And the follow-on after that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Just again, before I leave, just wanted to thank Calvin, Mickey, Alan for their research on this, and then also Kelly, who had to call a lot of jurisdictions to get their information because their codes are just not that clear.
Thanks, folks.
All right. Can we pull the PowerPoint back up, please? We're really testing out the system tonight, aren't we?
They're working out just well.
All right, so while they're doing that, what we're going to do is a thing called personas. And so it's used a lot when you're developing software. And basically you attach a name to a situation, and it allows you to kind of see the situation through the customer's point of view.
Point of clarification, are these actual situations with false names, or all the names and the situations?
First of all, the names are fake names, and they're non-gender.
Okay. What about the situations?
Situations are loosely based on things that I've been hearing and seeing.
Okay.
And then I purposely left some things blank because we might, more than one mind together, we can always come up with some different situations or pain points. Okay, so the first one is Nova, and it's a single-family home. Yeah. I think you walked away with the thing. All right, so you'll just have to go with the hard copy. Nova, single-family homeowner without a driveway, they want a new driveway, but they got a hilly yard terrain. And that's an actual case. We do have some residents here where the yards preclude, without spending an inordinate amount of money, to put a driveway in. You have Renee, who once again is another single-family homeowner without a driveway, wants a driveway. The pain point is the installation cost. Alexis, another single-family homeowner, this time with a driveway, wants to expand the existing driveway, but hasn't taken any action. And then you have Jody, another single-family homeowner without a driveway, wants a new driveway, but hasn't taken any action either. And then now here's the point where I'm going to ask you all to put your heads together. You got Jalen, a single-family homeowner with a driveway, but the existing driveway is outside of the current code. What are the pain points you think that individual is experiencing?
Single-family homeowner with a driveway.
So that's a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want to spend.
Fines and fees.
The cost?
Yeah, the cost.
Yeah, fines and fees.
Yeah.
You can laugh, Mike, but this is what we do all day long.
Oh, man.
No, it's actually used a lot when you're doing a lot of work with customers and with a lot of times when you're developing types of software.
I couldn't hear what you said, Councilmember Moore. I couldn't quite hear what you said.
No, I said fees and fines
Yeah,
that they would be
okay, yeah.
anticipating from the city.
Any other pain points?
Did you get cost of installation? Okay.
Would the fact that it's a grandfathered use be a pain point, or and it would be then increasing a nonconformity if it expanded?
Can you say that again, Dean?
Yeah, I was just wondering if the fact that it's existing driveway outside of the current code, which means it's a non-conforming use, that means that if they come in for a permit, that they're shining a light on that non-conforming use. If it's legally non-conforming, then they're not going to be allowed to increase the non-conforming use. If it's not legally non-conforming, they might have to rip up part of their driveway. So they...
Okay. And then you've got a cost of
keep what they have.
removal.
Deconstruction, I guess.
Yeah, deconstruction, that's a good
Taking it
word.
down.
You can see why we're doing this exercise, right? Except for Mike over here, who has the look of disdain on his
I
face.
have to stay.
We're making it work.
Does not work. But, yeah. I'll get a driveway.
All right. Anything else you can think that Jalen might experience?
Emotional damage.
Well, we get that just from sitting next to Mike.
True.
Probably neighbors
In
complain
the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if they
Ridicule.
know the code.
Taking time off work to deal with the whole issue.
So loss of work, potential wages. Okay. Anything else for Jalen? Pardon?
Contractor cost.
Okay. Okay.
Then you have to have it landscaped. That's substantial.
Okay. Those are good points. I didn't even think about that. Okay. Do you want to move on to Ally or Ollie?
Yes.
Okay. This individual is a single-family homeowner with a permitted home-based business and driveway. They want to park 2 of their home-based business vehicles in the driveway. So what's the pain points given our current laws?
They can't have two.
Yeah,
They
they're not
can't have two
allowed.
vehicles.
Impact on their business,
Impact on it, yep.
negative impact.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Martha. You probably had a good,
Well, to solve that, you take off the advertisement off the one vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no longer-
Can I make a point here real quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the limit of one permitted vehicle associated with a home occupation, they can actually go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and apply for a special exception, which they could get an additional one if necessary. They still wouldn't be able to exceed the total number of 2 per the commercial parking ordinance, but they could conceivably get 2 vehicles associated with the home occupation through a special exception, which is similar to a conditional use permit.
there's a cost, right, to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Yes, there would be. I don't know what that cost is, but there would be a cost to apply for the exception.
Okay. All right. Anything else with that persona? Okay. Then let's go down to Whitley, which I didn't realize could be a boy or girl's name. Okay, this is a single-family homeowner with a driveway, and they want to protect the quality of life and home value. So what is the pain points for that individual?
Well, seeing a home that is non-conforming, that is extremely out of non-conformance. I mean, you can be a little bit out of conforming, but when you're a lot, it becomes obvious.
Okay, got that? Anything else? No, I was asking anybody had any other ideas. Daryl looks like he's deep in thought.
Well, I'm thinking, yes, thinking.
I would think that they might think of a fairness issue. They have to have their driveway a certain way, or their property or their backyard a certain way, and 2 doors down, they're allowed to do something that they're not doing because they're in conformance.
Maybe create an HOA? Create an HOA.
Oh, yeah.
The neighbors
right.
get together and
Yeah.
create.
The chances of that happening are
Snowball's
slim
chance.
to,
Yes.
yeah, slim, yeah.
That's okay, we put it on there.
Down a little bit, yeah, thanks.
There's no such thing as a bad idea.
What's a bad idea?
I said there's no such thing as a bad idea.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
How about impossible ideas?
Well, if we didn't, we got our people on the moon, didn't we, back in the 60s?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
there's,
We went to the moon with the slide rule.
Yeah.
We didn't have the computers we have today.
okay. Any other ideas? All right, so we're going to move on to then the first discussion. You can go back. You go back. I know, it's not so easy, is it?
This is it.
Okay, there we go. So we're going to talk about the code for registered home-based businesses. So right now, based on what Dean told us, if you have a valid home-based business, you can only have one commercial vehicle associated to that business. And Yessie, do you want to, since you brought this up, you want to handle it?
So I brought it up because in my mind, the way my mind works, if I own a business, I'm allowed to have one vehicle, but my neighbor doesn't have a business, he's allowed to have 2 vehicles, is how I would read it.
And so what some possible changes that we can do is we can bump up to 2 commercial vehicles, so you have equity. And it will match the city code for the other motor vehicle parking. But it will require the downside, well, not so much downside, but part of the process, based on our discussions with Dean and the city manager, is that we will need some public hearings. It will need to go before the planning commission and then eventually to us for approval.
Do we have any projections by how many vehicles this will add?
I do not know, but we can put that down to find out.
Technically, you would be allowed 2 vehicles, but they both could not be home business. One could be home business, and one could be a resident in your home who brings a commercial vehicle home from the business that they work at.
Right, but if my neighbor doesn't have a business and he has 2 commercial vehicles, he can still park his 2 commercial vehicles that he brings from work or whatever.
But meanwhile, the home business that's
Can
paying
only have one.
taxes here in Manassas Park is restricted to 1.
Yeah, no, I get your point.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding from what Dean said, they could get a second one if they just petition.
My neighbor doesn't have to petition.
That's correct. That's what you're saying.
Right, and the petitioner has to pay a cost. I don't know what that cost is. So the burden, once again, is on the tax-paying resident.
I mean, that makes sense, and I could see us maybe expanding that to 2 for home-based
Yeah, it
businesses.
does make sense.
But I think the problem is going to be, you're going to have people with 4 cars in their home-based business, and they're going to
No,
want all
because
4
the other, according to Dean, the other lot, the one that we just created, the one that we just approved,
Yes.
only permits 2 in total, no matter what.
Correct.
2 permitted vehicles, yeah.
Well, it makes it consistent with our
Yeah.
other policy. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
So it won't be confusing.
That's an easy one. Maybe
If
we
it's
can just
confusing
change
to
that.
me that I'm here, doing all the thinking with, well, at least I think I'm doing all the thinking, I would think it would be confusing to residents. Because it confused me when I started reading it, so.
Yeah, no, I think we should make it consistent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
You were saying,
Vehicles make sense. We're going to have to answer the question to the public about the projection of how many increase.
Right.
So we have at least some kind of a guess,
Right.
But the 2 does make sense.
Okay, so the action item is a projection, if this passed, the projection of the increased number of vehicles.
For commercial, for business, home-based businesses, to 2.
On the street, in the driveways, or overall?
The same law will apply.
To be in the
Okay.
driveway.
It has to be in the driveway.
Okay.
and then how about their personal vehicles if they have personal vehicles outside the commercial vehicle?
They'd probably have to park it on the street, or if they have a long enough driveway in the driveway.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do when I had my home-based business,
Yeah, that's what my father did when he had his home-based business as well.
to comply with the law.
Hold on, all right, let me, all right, so the neighbor next door doesn't have a business, but has a commercial vehicle.
Has 2. They say he has 2.
Okay, so why would that resident have a commercial vehicle if they don't have a business?
They don't have a home-based business.
Yeah, it's a
Maybe they work for Novak. and they-
Taking
yeah.
the home?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, from work.
So now one is on a driveway, one's on the street?
No.
No, they're not
They
allowed
still
on
have
the
to be in the
street.
driveway.
No, the home-based business, sorry.
No,
No commercial
they
vehicles.
can
He's
only
only
have
allowed
one.
1. As a home-based business, he's only allowed 1.
We're gonna bump
But they could park it on the street, though.
No.
No, nobody.
Home-based business. Is that what,
No, as still as a home-based business, you can't park it on the street. At least that's what I was told.
No
I
commercial
thought, Dean,
vehicles.
didn't you just say that they could park overnight if they were home-based business?
Not on the street. No, they can't park on the street. During the day, a commercial vehicle
During the
can park
day,
on the
yes.
street, but at night, they cannot. At night, they have to be parked in the driveway or in an enclosed structure on the premises.
Right.
Okay. I mean, the whole point, the point is to get commercial vehicles off the street, right?
Right. But now it's conflicting with the home-based business owner, exactly.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, conflicting with the home-based business, correct.
Yes,
But, what was I saying? That was my train of thought.
I know.
But at the same time, we don't want to have a commercial parking lot either, right?
But you're only allowed to have 2, whether it's home-based business, as, having the 2 vehicles, or if it's someone that works outside the home and is bringing vehicles to their home. Like a contractor.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to ensure that there's some equity.
As a home-based business owner, I'm paying business license and I'm paying taxes, but I'm only allowed to have 1 commercial vehicle.
Right.
But
right.
Bob's paint business out of another jurisdiction.
He's not paying business license, but we're allowing him to bring home his 2 vehicles if he's not paying business license.
Right. No, I see the point. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think of,
So to me, it's not making sense, but maybe it's the way it's supposed to be, so that's why we brought it up.
So even if she got a second vehicle, it would be parked in the driveway?
Yeah. So the second vehicle, I think is what Dean is trying to say. As a home occupancy person at this home, I will have one vehicle registered to my business. But as myself, as a person, I can have another commercial vehicle and not be fined by it or not be cited by it because I'm allowed to have two commercial vehicles in my home parked inside my
What are
driveway.
you struggling with on the vehicles?
No, I'm good.
Pretty clear what they're saying. What are you struggling with? Because I'm trying to find out what you're struggling with because it seems like it's just unfair and it should match. That's
Right.
It also takes the burden off easier on the staff as well.
Yeah, I'm just
all
thinking
around.
of, there's the house I manage, there's a catering company, and they have literally 3 catering trucks, right? And they have 2 personal vehicles. So now these people have 5 vehicles in their lot,
Right.
okay? They cannot have all those vehicles parked. It's a HOA violation and a city violation. I send notices to them every time, right? So if we're allowing the home-based businesses additional commercial vehicle,
They'll be capped at 2.
right?
Everything will be
I know, I'm
capped
just
at
worried
2.
about, then I'm worried about the personal vehicle.
But it's no
Right.
different than,
So the other business are using their commercial vehicles as their personal vehicle,
Maybe.
the neighbor.
Maybe they have a personal vehicle too.
Yeah, well, they can, yeah.
We're not restricting the amount of vehicles in the home, we're just trying to restrict the amount of commercial
Well,
vehicles.
it doesn't alleviate the problem then, because we're going to have the same problem on the street then, right? So they're going to park it somewhere.
no, the difference is that it will be residential cars that are,
Well, right.
that are
Less bulky,
registered in the
less-
city.
and
They're
less-
paying taxes, whereas many of the commercial vehicles are not registered in the city. And we're not talking about the home-based businesses, we're talking those commercial vehicles that come from elsewhere.
Right.
They're not registered in the city, and they're occupying citizen-paid streets. So they're basically getting free parking.
And then the complaint is that these big vehicles don't let you get out of your driveway because they block your way.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the whole point, is get them
So
off
we're
the
trying to
street.
get them out of the streets.
Right. All right, yeah, we can move on, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, so, all right, so what's the consensus so that we can, do we want to move, we okay with expanding it to 2?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, that's,
Yes. Consensus is
Progress
yes.
tonight.
okay.
Tommy.
What, Les?
Yes, no, I agree.
All right. So in that case, Dean, then, right, the next step is that the staff has to do some investigation, right? And then we have public hearings, and then
Correct.
planning commission, then another public hearing, and then to us.
Right, so I'll draft the ordinance, staff can do the research, and then we bring that to the planning commission first, and then to the governing body, both public hearings.
And the really quick question, how does this change, does it impact the commercial parking ordinance in any way? I should say the execution of it?
From my perspective, it would not, because you're still looking at permitted vehicles. There's a definition for a permitted vehicle. They're still only allowed 2 on their driveway. Even if you expand this, they're still only limited to 2. So it wouldn't be problematic from my perspective. I don't know about the actually going out and doing it if there's anything.
Okay, I'm just thinking that those home-based businesses, will they get dinged if this come October 1, if this isn't in place by October 1?
Well, they should only have one commercial vehicle,
Yeah, but some have 2.
but they wouldn't because they're still allowed to have 2 according to the ordinance we just passed.
According to what Dean sent us the email, though, remember when we were looking at the actual real case?
Oh, if the vehicle is registered, but I would think that the vehicle is not registered because they're only allowed to have 1. So it's not registered under the business.
Okay, we'll have to put that in the parking lot.
Right.
Okay, can we add that to the parking lot? Okay. Sorry, I'm taking notes. Okay, one down.
The next one.
Yep, the next one. This one is going to take a little bit more time. This is kind of like the heart and soul of what we're discussing tonight. Possible changes to the driveway size ordinance. And these are just some things that we came up with based on our conversations that we had with Dean and Laszlo, and then sometimes just Yessie and I talking, and then just other things that I have heard that we heard when we were talking at our last meeting. So I kind of came up with a list and left room on another page if we come up with other ideas to determine what we want to do. And we can, leave things as is. We can leave, take what's existing and add on to it, or we can revise information. So in one of our conversations, it was brought up the idea of have a secondary in-yard parking space. And Dean, you want to touch on that a little bit? You could probably explain it much better than I can.
Well, I think it was, the idea was similar to what Blacksburg allows, where they, instead of a secondary driveway, though, it would just be a parking space, and then you could have a maximum percentage of the yard that could be taken up by the impervious area. So, let's say that if they had say we allow only a 20-foot wide driveway, but then we allow a secondary parking area that maybe doesn't run the entire length of the front yard, but is only a portion of the front yard. And then you would then look at the total percentage of impervious area in the front yard instead of just looking at widths. So that was one idea that I thought might be not a solution, but it might help a little bit.
Sort of like a funnel effect, where the driveway goes in and then, yeah? Is that it?
Well, it could, but you could have a secondary, like say, so right now you have a driveway that has an apron associated with it. Well, you'd have another apron, and it would be a driveway, but it wouldn't. But remember, I said the definition of a driveway is to go from the road to a garage or some other parking area, typically covered, like for a carport. This would just be a separate parking area, still in the front yard. But maybe it doesn't go the full depth of the front yard. So it's, maybe it just allows for one car to be parked right there. And then in that case there, instead of looking at the total width of the front yard, you look at the total percentage of the area of the front yard that those impervious areas take up.
If I could just say, it'd be easier for staff to just widen the dimensions versus doing percentage calculations. So if your goal is to add, just widen the dimensions. Don't have us calculate percentages of get into arguments with residents for how we calculated the total square footage. I'd rather just widen the driveway.
Correct.
But wouldn't they have to come in and get a permit to do that though? And at the permit stage, they'd have to show that they meet the requirements.
Yeah, but you're just measuring width now.
Yeah.
No, I know, but you're saying that, yes, it's difficult to go out and have someone physically figure out, on site what the percentage is. But if they're coming in, as they should be, with some sort of a lot plat or something that shows the area, the total area of the front yard, and then the total area of impervious area, and then it shows that the driveway itself is no more than 20 feet wide, that all is very simple to review in the permitting process. And then you just make sure that they built it according to the plan.
So Mickey's coming forward.
Okay, so this is how we practice those type of requirements. So when people come in to do a driveway or a shed or a retaining wall, we do give leeway to the property owner for those type of accessory structures, including fences. A lot of people do not have house location surveys. We, as a city, do not require them, as most other Northern Virginia jurisdictions do at the time the house was constructed. So when people are coming in for those fence, driveway, we say if you don't have a plat, because it's not really a permanent and it's a minor structure that doesn't require a building permit, we'll allow you to mark up an aerial photo of your property to show the location or demonstrate the width of the driveway, just so we have it on record. And then, we can use that as for enforcement or just record-keeping purposes. But we don't require everybody to have a plat. My only requirement is if it's a specific structure, like a deck or a front porch or an addition.
Is that for the survey? But you're saying they can bring that in on a plat map, their own plat map, and not have the full survey done, correct? And just mark it on the existing plat map, not just a white sheet that has dimensions.
I'm not sure what the.
So you're saying on the
distinction
plat,
you're
if they
making.
bring in their plat map and they mark it on there, that's fine, not just a sheet that they put together with just
Oh,
dimensions.
correct, right. No, I mean, when it's an addition, yes,
Right.
it has to be a stamp with a land surveyor certificate on it.
All right. Thank you.
So, I mean, my point is that it would be very difficult in many circumstances to actually identify the square footage because we really don't have a lot of the measurements, especially from the front property line to the front yard. And I mean, most people really don't know where their front property line is. Typically on the west side, your house is about 25 feet to your front property line, even though the street is further away. And so a lot of people think their front yard is a lot larger than it is as defined by the zoning ordinance.
Heck, and a lot of us can't, including myself, don't even know how to determine a square foot, so.
Well, there's always Google, yes. Math equations are helpful on that kind of requirement. It's very easy to look up now.
Thank you, Mickey. All right, so with the first one, is it a no-go?
Yes.
Okay, everybody, the first one a no-go? Okay, so we'll put a line through that, if my pen will work. All right, now on to driveway dimensions. What do we want to do? We want to keep it as is? We want to keep it as is, but revise it a little bit?
I like the city manager's recommendation that we would go to 27 feet for lots that are 100 square feet or bigger. It gives them more than our current law. Yeah, so I think
But
going
how
to 27.
How many houses, how many houses do we have that are that big?
Probably 10%, 10% or less.
10%.
Yeah, or less. It's not that many when I was going out. I mean, I haven't measured every single one, but I was just going in the GIS and kind of measuring, yeah.
Are they primarily like over by the golf course?
Surprisingly, there's on the west side as well. You have some lots that are
deep.
Yeah, wider than, well, they're wider than 100 feet,
Yeah.
surprisingly, even when I was there just measuring it, so.
And that would provide 3 spaces to park.
Well, depending how deep it is, but the width-wise, it would allow 3.
3 cars could park.
Exactly, yep.
Side by side, okay.
But if it's deep, then you can keep, 3 cars wide, and then how many cars you can fit that way.
Yeah, okay.
Or just 2 cars and then just more turning movements, which was brought up earlier, just allow cars to be able to turn within the driveway as well.
So that would be wider than what they're allowed over in Manassas.
Yes, Manassas does 25 feet for those
25,
lots.
okay, yeah.
So if it's 100 square feet,
No, 100 feet width.
100 feet in width, then it'd be 27 feet, otherwise we keep it as is?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Sure, if it's 100 feet in width,
Yes.
then it's, the driveway can be 27 feet.
Uh-huh.
But if it's less than 100 feet, it's as is.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Is that what we want? Is everybody good with that?
Is that going to solve a problem?
I don't know.
Javed, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I mean, I just need to know how many houses
Yeah, yeah,
that are less than
exactly.
100 feet have a driveway.
So we can put that on the list of things to find out, right?
Yeah.
Wait, what's the
Well, no, he
question?
doesn't have, he said there's only 10%, so it's 10% of the
10%.
population that will be allowed to expand their driveway.
Yeah. I don't know how many houses do we have?
That's a rough guess, too. I mean, that was just for me
Exactly.
going around there, yeah.
Well,
It's not that much is my point. Yeah.
Can I ask or make another possible suggestion or a suggestion of another possibility?
Yes.
Yeah.
So just like we had the BZA previously is able to grant a special exception for an additional car, what if we did the same thing for driveway width or total width of driveways, or had a conditional use permit that they had to come to the governing body to have an additional driveway width? That way they could give justification at that point for why they should be able to do that. And then you could consider it as an individual lot instead of just a blanket requirement.
Are you referring to the 27 feet?
I'm referring to anything greater than whatever number you guys decide is a good number. So let's say you keep the 20 feet, and then someone comes in and they wanted 35 feet, and they had a good justification that was reasonable to the governing body or the BZA, depending on which way you want to do it. And then you could grant that, and then they'd have permission to go ahead and widen or have additional driveway on that particular lot. That way you'd have to publicly advertise, the neighbors could come out for or against it. It'd just be the same as any other land use matter that required additional attention by the governing body or the BZA, depending on how you want to do it.
But what if it was approved for one case and denied for another?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Criteria.
Well, that's always the problem you run into with any land use case. But the key is there are always fact-based matters that you can look into when you have it before the governing body. So if you're concerned about it, you ask them how they're going to take care of, I don't know, additional runoff, if that's a concern. I mean, you could set it up so that they had to meet certain criteria. And I just throw it out as a possible a way to possibly get around some of the strict requirements that we have.
Sounds like an administrative
If there's a desire to do that.
Yeah. I don't like putting the burden on the neighbors to have to come and complain.
So we're only getting about 11 applications a year for expansions of driveways.
Well, for driveway work, right, Mickey? Any?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
either they want a driveway apron or expansion of the driveway, or if they're coming and replacing their driveway, we have nothing on file. I request that they actually find their own driveway.
Okay.
So it's not many people trying to expand or.
Yeah, or legally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well,
There's
say
a lot
not
of
legally, but
probably-
formally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you all think of that?
I like what Daryl proposed, the 100 feet, 27. 127.
Yeah, let's just keep it like that for now.
Okay. Well, it has to go through, and this is not the final thing, right? Because remember, this has to go through all those different iterations.
Yeah,
the public hearings, but this is a baseline or a foundation for the discussion. Okay, so we're keeping driveway dimensions with the change that if the yard is 100 feet wide, then they go up to 27 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. One thing that was kind of brainstormed about, it to kind of help with runoff, was that required tree planting for driveways of a certain size.
Interesting.
People don't like to keep up with trees.
I know.
Yeah, they plant a tree and they don't take care of it and it dies, so I feel like.
I say no.
Yeah, that's a lot.
What does everybody else think?
I'm not sure I understand the concept.
don't
So you would
understand
park you would plant the tree where?
Somewhere in the yard.
Oh, to offset the driveway? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I love trees. I'm all about planting trees,
Yeah.
but I don't know about it as a requirement.
I mean, the concept is good, but if they're forced to plant a tree, like Vice Mayor Mensing said, they might neglect it and it would die anyway.
Or, I mean, we bought a tree a couple of years ago and we did everything and the thing died anyway, so.
Yeah, it happens with the shrubs as well.
Yeah.
And some trees have low roots that destroy concrete.
Yeah.
And will destroy your driveway.
Yeah.
Or destroy your, what's the weeping willows will go after will invade your pipes.
And then you have the raking leaf problem.
Yeah, willow trees are terrible when it comes to that. Yeah.
All right, so
So now.
this one goes in the garbage can?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why we do this, right? So people, if they come back, they see that we've done this.
Yeah.
Last time we talked about permeable material and maybe somehow associated it to driveway size.
Oh, I can't see us doing that. That
Because
would
too
be a burden
costly.
on the homeowner.
I looked
And
up the
it's
cost.
not even going to work.
I looked up the cost. It's
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then he says there's a
Yeah.
lot of maintenance.
And the upkeep would be terrific. Wow.
Ross through that one.
trash can.
Yeah, trash can. Trash can, are we in agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And then when I was looking through things, we talked about driveway aprons, but for the life of me, I couldn't remember, even though I listened to everything, was it, I don't know what we were talking about with driveway aprons. Does anybody remember?
No.
Nope. Trash
Okay.
can. Trash can.
Was it to expand it or to have
Well,
two?
that's a question. I guess that's a question for Mickey. Mickey, since you know this better than any of us, if we allow people to expand their driveway to 27 feet, does that change the apron size?
That's more of a Calvin question because it's getting the apron is the curb cut, and that's why it's we require actually a deposit because it's cutting into the public
right away
system and our right of way. So I don't know.
Yeah, but currently our public facilities manual.
Can you get closer to the microphone, Calvin?
Currently, our public facilities manual, the slide that references apron construction is an old VDOT slide, and we added a notation in there that the top of the driveway maxes out at 20 feet. That matches the ordinance that we have in place. So if we look to widen the driveway widths, then we will then be looking to change that slide in the PFM because it doesn't make much sense, but at some point, when you have so much apron on the street frontage, you're really losing the impacts of your curb and gutter, and you're failing to discharge water as quickly and efficiently to the storm structures as you want to. So.
Okay.
So we'll have to add that to the action items to investigate, right?
Yeah.
See, this is why we're doing it, right? All at the same time.
Heard about that before.
So we need to investigate the impact.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to eventually get to the trash can.
Yeah, I think the
Okay, but
27 feet.
let's go through the process, right?
Yeah.
The impact of expanded driveway size on the, what's called the apron. Okay. All right, so that is the driveway aprons is a TBD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we already talked about this one, the ratio lot size to, we sort of did. Ratio lot size to driveway size, that's kind of connected to what we passed, so. All right, what about the stormwater management? We talked a little bit about that last time. I think, Hasib, you mentioned that some of your clients are always amazed that we don't have any restrictions.
Well, I mean, everywhere there's development, they have a stormwater management system. And I think over here, we don't have any code or ordinance. I mean, what's going to happen is that if they expand a driveway, then there's argument that, the water runoff's going to go into the street if there's not managed properly. And, we easily flood on heavy rains too. So that's something I would consider putting in there.
But with the small amount that we are expanding, that might not be significant. Or can we guess?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But then when we talk about the backyards, right, does that
Yeah.
kind of dovetail?
Yeah.
All right. So what do we want to do with this? Make it a TBD?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. Based on
It is
our
important. It's an important issue.
TBD based on other discussions, right?
Right.
Yes, research.
Thank you. We're going to miss you when you're gone. When you no longer reside here. All right. And this was a radical idea that came up with one of our discussions, is that leave it to each neighborhood to kind of self-organize about what they want to do regarding driveways, and then bring it to the governing body for decision.
I think
No.
That would be disastrous.
Trash can.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
Trash can?
trash can.
Okay. All right, so far, what we've walked away with is driveway dimensions, 100 feet with a yard that's 100 feet wide, can have a driveway that's 27 feet. Everything else stands as is. Driveway avens are TBD, based on, our other discussions and research, and the same thing with stormwater management. Okay, any other ideas regarding the driveway size?
Not right now.
Nope.
We've already
Okay.
kind of like,
Okay, so we can move on now to discussion area 3, which is backyard parking. Oh, well, hold on, next steps. So next steps, we'll give all this information to the city staff to investigate, come back to us with some more information. I don't know. Can the residents ask questions?
Yes, absolutely.
But you got to go to the mic.
Yes, please.
And talk slowly because it is 9:15 and,
It's coffee 30, right?
yeah.
So going back to something the city attorney touched on with the conditional use permits and specifically fact-based criteria, I want to go back to some of Laura's earlier examples with the J-Lin and all the people with their specific scenarios. So specific hypothetical scenario. Resident puts in an addition, puts in the larger driveway, permitted at the time. Resident then sells the house 10 years later. New resident buys the house. City comes in and says, oops, our bad, you can't have that big driveway that was previously permitted. Then what? So this resident was not the one to put in the addition or the larger driveway. They purchased the house with those features, specifically for those features, and is now being asked to remove them. How should that be handled?
If I can just add, so the staff wouldn't permit that. In the permit, it would say it would have to be demolished to meet conformance with the law. So the additional driveway would have to be demolished. So they would get a permit to build the second driveway, but it would also say you have to demolish the first one.
Yeah, only improvements that are actually permitted by the current law at the time are grandfathered in when the law is changed.
Okay. Okay.
I think Hasib's got a,
Oh, no, I was like, what's the pain points for the
well,
persona?
You got to, see, you're learning, right? This is why
was
we
your
do it.
comment?
So let's kind
Like,
of,
what would the pain points be for that persona?
Yeah.
first give the persona a name.
Open with them.
Yeah.
No, first, honestly, give the persona a name.
Oh,
Let's name him Mike.
yes.
Okay.
Well, I think we already had a mic. We could do, I don't know, we'll go with Robert.
Okay.
Bobby.
Yeah, we'll make it Bobby. Okay.
All right.
So Bobby bought a house. He or she is a single-family homeowner with a driveway put in by the previous owner
After the law was changed.
after change in law. Okay. And
And it was not permitted, right? Or it was?
I don't know.
No, it's not. It's permitted to be constructed, the new driveway,
Yes.
as long as the previous one gets demolished. Once it's completed. Yeah.
Demolished the
But then
old
it
one.
wasn't
Yes,
demolished.
it wasn't
Yeah.
demolished, gotcha.
But that fell underneath the previous homeowner.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
It falls on who's the owner
At the
of the
time.
land, correct.
Right.
Mhm. If you have a violation, it's a violation regardless of who owns it.
Right, but you have to think of this as from the perspective of the persona, not as us sitting here, as the customer, right? So that's kind of part of the empathy part of all of this.
I know, I'm just clarifying what the law is.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. Okay, so Bobby is a single-family homeowner with a driveway that the previous owner added.
It didn't comply with the law.
Right. Okay, so what's Bobby's wants? To keep as is?
Right. Keep the driveway.
Okay, what's the pain points?
Fees and fines. construction costs.
demolishing the,
Yeah.
driveway?
Driveway. Yep.
Okay.
Home value.
Okay. All right. So using that persona and kind of going back to our driveway discussion, the one that discussion area 2, what is y'all's recommendation?
To keep it as is. Right, that's, the burden should not fall on the new homeowner, right? If there was no, I mean, I understand you gotta do your due diligence, but without an HOA and without, because when someone buys a house, the HOA sends you a resale packet of all the defects and repairs needed, right? With a community with no HOA, it would be hard for a buyer to know any code violations that the house has. The only way you can find out if there's a lien on the property is when there's a title search.
And, but code violations don't show up on a title search, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. So they don't
It's not standard
show up.
practice to.
Exactly. So, I mean, some realtors don't do the extra step with the home buyer to actually go into a city database, see if there's an open record with that property address. They just don't. Right. So the knowledge of this new homeowner thinking when they're buying something like this is it should not fall on the burden should not fall on the new homeowner.
What about the two homeowners who have already come into compliance? What about the fairness issue?
What about all other city codes? Is this going to apply for all codes? So if now you're a new owner and you inherited something
that's what I'm
illegal,
saying. Then the
we
code,
can't enforce anymore?
The code needs to be enforced in a timely manner. We can't have this huge gap either, right?
I agree.
You can't have this huge 10-year, 5-year, whatever gap it is, and all of a sudden, oh, now we found it.
So you want a timeline on enforcement?
I mean, if we're actively enforcing it, then the previous homeowner should have gotten that violation.
Right.
Why didn't he get the violation? Right?
It was still under permitted work, from my understanding.
Well, someone had to inspect the driveway.
Yeah.
So they didn't see to demolish the driveway?
But stick to the point. So you're saying there should be a timeline. If we didn't enforce something after a certain time, the violation should be allowed to remain.
No.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, that wouldn't hold up in court. You would have to enforce the law. The code.
No, yeah, we're enforcing the law. I'm just saying that who's at fault then? Is it the new homeowner or is it, what would say?
The realtor, if we're not doing their due diligence.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't put it on them either.
Sure you can. They're
What should happen in that
professional
situation, they should pass the law that the realtor is required to go out and look at all city code violations, provide that to the,
Yeah, it should be
to
passed
their,
down.
to their
All they got to do
customer.
is stop by Calvin's office there and ask.
Yeah. Because what about the neighbor who's been following the code the
Right.
entire time they've lived there?
Or the two, as the mayor pointed out, who
Yeah.
made changes.
Right.
After they were pointed out. They may have had the same length of time.
Oh, to make the change.
No.
Well, I'm just saying
You said
that,
the time was too much
right,
time.
I mean, the
you know what I'm
previous homeowner should have been violated. It should have been
Yeah.
cited.
saying? Right, and they
Definitely.
weren't.
They
We had-
weren't.
We had a small code enforcement team.
Right,
We're just now expanding that.
right.
Well, and they would have been cited had we had more code enforcement officers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't. We didn't until recently.
Oh, yeah, I know, but
But I think the key point with this one, my understanding, was that when the permit was given, it was with the understanding that an action would be taken.
Right.
Right.
Demolished.
Right, but there was never any confirmation that that action was taken. So in some way, sitting over here in this seat, you know, part of it, I hate to say this, but part of the, not liability, but part of the burden does fall on the city, right? Or responsibility in this case falls a little bit on the city as well.
right. I mean, you can't have a law and not enforce it either. Just because we're understaffed, we still have to enforce it, right? So,
There's lots of things.
I mean,
I have a quick question for the sake of time, because we have CSP sitting over there, and we have the register sitting there.
I really think we should move them up on the agenda.
There should be more of a work session.
In all due respect, we're almost done. The next two are very simple.
Okay.
So
on to it.
And let me point out, we all can't talk at the same time because then we can't hear what anybody's
Right.
saying, so. Yeah.
maybe maybe this persona we kind of put aside and we kind of noodle over it and come back with some suggestions the next meeting.
Yeah, I hope so. We do.
I guess we're going to
Look at
have
me,
to.
or-
Okay.
I just asked for consistency, right? When we didn't enforce things a few years ago because we had a small code enforcement staff, if someone goes back, a resident says, hey, this was from a long time ago, you can't enforce it anymore, we have to accept that that's the case. I'd apply it to all of them and not just this specific case.
Right.
We have to be fair.
All right. So now we're going to the backyard parking. So, we already touched a little bit about that earlier, that right now, all that's required is that if you park in the backyard, that it's supposed to be paved. We saw some other jurisdictions, their code,
Thank you.
He's
I appreciate it. I need it.
their code.
The vodka, too.
Maybe next time we'll bring snacks for you.
The vodka.
Yeah, no, that'll get us in trouble.
Some.
But also, I also included this was Fairfax County's, a PDF from Fairfax County. So, and these are actual pictures of backyards. Yeah, the newest one, of course, is the tractor of the tractor trailer that's parked in a backyard. So what do you guys want to do with that?
You need to limit the amount of paved area in the backyards.
So if we were to cap the paved area, is it enforceable? How would it be enforced, and is it?
Again, if they're paving, it would have to be a complaint, right? We'd have to, hopefully they'd come in for a permit, number one, to do it, but they probably won't. And then the neighbor's going to have to report them, and then the neighbor's going to have to grant us access, and we'll have to see it. So it is enforceable as long as we can either see it happening, right? But it's hard, again, we have a big city for one person to kind of patrol around and see all that. So it really is going to be up to the neighbor to let us know that their neighbor's doing this.
So enforcement would be difficult.
Yeah, it would, yep.
But not impossible.
Another question for Dean. If we adopt this where we limit the space of parking in the backyard, would everyone else up as of today be grandfathered?
Right.
Yes, if they have areas in the backyard.
That's a waste of time. That's a waste of time.
Well, it prevents, though. It prevents the future.
Can I point out that semi there is not permitted under our commercial parking ordinance? Anyway, it has to be fully enclosed, so I know it's not germane to the parking in general, but that's a unique situation there.
I agree. I don't want to hold back.
Dean, I have a quick question for you. You said it's grandfathered, but can you put a cap, like could you do a 5-year
So we
cap
should
or
start it now.
a 10-year cap where they have to comply?
So right now, our current grandfathering ordinance in the city, no. I have to look at state law and see if there's any cap we can put on there, but typically that would be no for zoning issues.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to just leave it as is?
I think we should get more
limit-
research and see what other cities are doing for backyards.
area.
We haven't seen that yet.
Okay, so the action item, more research. And then Dean, we have the issue with the semi, so I'll follow up with the city manager about that.
Okay.
Other jurisdictions, okay.
This is an issue that's going to be really hard to address.
But at the same time, it also, leads to other issues, right? So if you have a lot of cars in the backyard, and you have runoff from the rain.
Yep,
Then you have,
Yeah.
yeah. And then what about the resident that lives next door to a backyard full of cars, right? What about the resident that lives next door to a backyard full of cars? And in all honesty, I had a resident in February pull me into their house, into their backyard, and showed me they're just surrounded by trucks. We're not talking about cars, we're talking about box trucks. So they can't even sit in their back porch without being surrounded by box trucks. All right, and the last one should be easy peasy. And that's staff guidance, and sorry, there's a typo in this, but that's what you get when you're writing a lot of things. Staff guidance about yard parking on street cleaning and snow emergency route days. And this comes from a phone call from a very frustrated resident. She was extremely frustrated, and I, explained the situation to her, and she had a lot of questions that I didn't have any good answers to. So the question is, we have two scenarios. Residents that live on snow emergency routes, they park their vehicles in the yards when there's emergency declared. And we do have a history of that happening. Scenario 2, residents park their vehicles in their yard during street cleaning time. So the question is, do we provide the same latitude when both of these circumstances exist? Do we go around now and just automatically write residents a notice that they're parking in their yard during a snow emergency? If we don't, do we extend that same latitude to those that are on street cleaning days?
It's only temporary.
Yeah. It's temporary, yes.
It's only temporary. They're not parking there.
Right, oh, it's only while they're cleaning the streets.
So why would we give them notice?
They did.
Oh, yeah, we give notices when we're going to do street cleaning.
Oh, no.
No, to the resident that parks in the yard is what he's saying.
Why would you give them?
Yeah, we don't take them to court.
Oh,
if
yeah,
that's
that's
the
what I'm
question.
asking.
We let them know that's a violation of the law, but there's no punitive action against them.
But the question
Literally,
is-
all you have to do is just move here. So when the street cleaning's done or the snow emergency
Yeah,
route is
move it
done,
back.
you just move it back. There's no violation.
Yeah. So what's the question then?
Well, the resident that received the notice, it was during street cleaning times, from my understanding.
Oh, from code
Yeah.
enforcer.
The notice that you get to the door.
It's a door hanger. It's
right.
informational. It's not a punitive action.
Oh.
I would think we need to extend the courtesy, because this is equivalent to the trash being allowed to be next to the carts the day after Christmas. It's an exception, as a courtesy.
Okay. Are we all in favor?
Again, just to be clear, we're not punishing anyone for this.
That's
So
what I'm
not
saying.
sure
I
what the
would
issue
not
is.
think
But at the
so.
same time.
We're not really doing it. Like we're
Right, but at the same
putting a door
time-
hanger, just informing them about this, but there's no punitive action being done here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see what the issue is.
But I'm pretty sure that they know that they're not supposed to park their car on the grass, but they're doing it at that moment because there's no space and you're cleaning the streets, so.
Well, he's saying it's not a citation.
It's not a
But
citation.
do we do that when it's the snow days? Do we go around putting?
If a car's in a yard and we're told that a car's in a
During snow
yard,
days?
we will actually, yes, we'll put door hangers on people just to inform them. But we don't
fine.
punish them. It's
Yeah.
not like trash. Trash is a lot quicker.
Right.
Trash, if you're leaving trash out, you're going to, you have 24 hours to rectify it. If you don't, then you get the notice, right? So the first step is letting you know you're in violation.
Right.
Next step, 24 hours later, you get your notice of violation. And then 24 hours after that, you get the public works come out and clear it out and it gets charged to you. There's no there's no similar punitive action here.
So is the community seeing it as a warning? Is that what it is?
Well, based on the phone
Yeah.
call, right, they see it as warrant, but at the same time, the resident's question was, it's street cleaning day, I had nowhere else to put the car. Why would you come around during street cleaning hours? I even asked, just come back the next day when street cleaning is
Okay,
done.
I mean, that's fair enough. I guess during street cleaning,
Is that how the law is written?
I don't know, I haven't.
Yeah, I mean, the car in yard is legal, so if you guys want to say with exception during street cleaning and snow emergencies, that's fine. But again, we're not even taking any punitive action, so I don't really see this as an issue.
Well, it is an issue to the resident that I spent 45 minutes on the phone call with.
Yeah, but what punitive action are we taking against that
The
resident?
resident was frustrated and was looking for answers, and which is, when I sent the email, was what I was asking as well. So altogether, just give me a second, altogether, I probably spent an hour and a half trying to calm a resident, trying to build trust with a long-term resident. It's not even someone I even know, to tell you the truth. I never met this lady before.
Yeah.
So,
So during street cleaning, then we should not be during that
Sure,
street.
add that to the law.
Well, how many of these violations or these notices do you even get a year on average for
Car and yard? Car and yard's
for
a-
street cleaning?
For street cleaning?
Yeah, just a notice. How many of these do you get?
What do you mean notices?
These type of just notice. I know it's not punitive, but just a notice if someone's parking.
I don't know. We'd have to keep the metrics on that.
It's
again.
very small, I assume, right?
Yeah, very small.
So I think this is just a one-off, probably. That just
Well-
probably haven't occurred.
I think that's just probably the simplest answer is what we said. You extend the same courtesy that we do for,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Are we in agreement that we want to extend this courtesy?
Yes.
I'm not, so, again, we have to research, this is a zoning law, so It's going to be different from trash. So I would say we need time to investigate this,
That's fine.
Okay, sure.
Sure. Come back.
about how we do this.
Okay,
All right.
She had a question.
okay.
Martha had a question.
We did it.
I don't want to get
Then
up,
it's
but
not
I'll
done.
speak louder. Could this not be a code enforcer's staff? Discretion as to today is street cleaning day. I'm not going to hang the tag up today, but if it's still there tomorrow, I will.
That's what I'm saying.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's very simple. It's me using common sense, saying, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna tell that lady to move her car right now, but as long as it's back on the street tomorrow, we're all good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's just common sense.
Yeah, just to clarify, though, we first try to talk to people. If they're not around, right, that's when we leave the notices because someone else is complaining about them doing this, right? We get constant calls that we're not enforcing the laws. We get bitched at every single week that we don't, so I'm going to stick up for my employees right now. I'm sorry. But my employees get bitched at every single week that we're not out there enforcing the law. And then when we enforce it and someone's doing something illegal, we're the bad guys now for enforcing the law.
No, but isn't that ongoing behavior? That's what we're trying
But
to
we
say.
didn't even do anything there. We just gave them a notice because we tried to talk to them, let them know. How do we know that they weren't doing that before?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
So all we're just giving information here. We didn't take any punitive action.
Yeah, there's no harm, no foul here.
But they're saying they might see it as a warning, and they're
Right.
like, why are we getting tickets?
I think the residents,
Yeah, and then if we
so,
don't cite, we get criticized for not citing people.
But like I said, we could use the discretion, common
Right.
sense during that time.
Okay, I think we need to bring this to a conclusion.
and we'll call the Elmo. Enough, let's move on.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the end of it. So thank you all very much for
Okay.
going through this. I know it was painful, but it was important.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Mayor, could we readjust the agenda to deal with the CSB issue
I'm sorry,
now?
I can't hear you.
Can we rearrange the agenda to deal with the CSB issue now before we go on recess? Or before we deal with the consent calendar? We have folks who have been waiting here all night.
I agree.
Agree.
Yeah, I have no issues with that.
Okay, let's just do that.
That is, but this is new business. We haven't even gone through.
That's okay, we'll do consent
agenda.
after we deal with them.
Okay. It's only going to be a 5-minute break. So let's take a 5-minute comfort break right now.
No, let's go ahead and do it, Daryl.
What's that?
I would like to go ahead and get.
So we can send these.
Get through that part, yes.
Okay. Does everybody want to move that up?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, what number is that? 9A. Community Service, Public Health Coordinator, Prince William County Services. Do we have Lisa Madron with us today? Hi. And I want to mention that we also have the Deputy County Executive of Prince William County, Elijah Johnson, with us today. So thank you for coming. Thank you.
What is it?
Yeah.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Members of the council, I'm Lisa Madron, the Executive Director with Community Services, and I'd like to also introduce, I have 2 Community Services staff with me this evening. Robin Fontaine is our Budget Manager.
Hi.
And Georgia Bachman is our Deputy Director.
Hi.
And I am here tonight to update you on CS and to get your approval to sign a 2-year performance contract that is a state contract. This contract permits us to receive state and some pass-through federal funding for some of the treatment services that we provide to individuals with mental health, substance use disorders, and developmental disabilities. CS has 7 treatment and service divisions where we offer over 18 programs. 10 of those programs are mandated state programs for youth and adults across a continuum of services. Our early intervention program, which serves infants and toddlers birth through 3 years who have a developmental delay or disability, is not a part of the performance contract. However, it is a part that's used by residents, so I wanted to mention it and include it this evening. This is another depiction of our 8 divisions to include our administrative and leadership, along with staffing and associated budgets. I would like to just comment on this particular slide as the adopted fiscal year 2024 budget is actually $74.9 million. And this slide is a slide that I usually bring when I come to you to discuss our performance contract. We are showing you fiscal year 2022 of the Manassas Park residents. We served 218 residents that received treatment services that are outlined here from Community Services. And Manassas Park contributed $1,030,060 towards the CS operations and services, and the services were valued at $1,420,972. This is our overall revenue information for all of our CS treatment services across disability areas. And you'll see that our mental health services generates the highest revenue, followed by our developmental disability services, our substance use, and early intervention services. Prince William CSB was the first community services board to be established in the Commonwealth almost 55 years ago. We are an administrative policy board with 10 members who are appointed and accountable to the governing bodies of Prince William County and the cities of Manassas Park and Manassas. Our board sets policy and administers the provision of mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use services. The state performance contract is the primary accountability mechanism with DBHDS, who licenses us as a treatment provider and also provides us with state funding for some of our treatment services. The performance contract outlines CSB and state responsibilities, the scope of treatment services, resources, and various terms and conditions for providing treatment services and accepting funding. The majority of the contract is standard across 40 CSBs, with the exception of Exhibit A, which is unique for each CSB. Exhibit A is mainly separated into 2 sections: a fiscal section that identifies funding across 3 disability areas, and a service section where we project service capabilities, individuals served, and the cost for each core service. Exhibit A is important to show who we are treating and serving and the impacts that we are having, as this can add more additional funding from the General Assembly. This can be very difficult, though, to keep reporting across 3 distinct disability areas separate, as many of the individuals we serve have co-occurring disabilities. The original Exhibit A is submitted to the state in early summer, and we submit a 6-month report and an end-of-year report, as well as uploading monthly data extracts across services. If services differ from the projected services by 25%, we provide justifications for this. This slide outlines the approval process for our performance contract, which is a biannual agreement, although I typically come annually because of the many changes to the budget and services each year. Virginia Code requires that every county or city establish a CSB by itself or in combination with cities and counties. The Virginia Code also requires that we have 1/3 of our board, our CS board membership, receiving treatment services or their family receiving supports, or have been a recipient of services in the past, and at least 1 member a current recipient of services. Our county attorney's office does an annual survey at the start of each year, and we continue to meet code requirements for the board membership. The current Manassas Park representative who serves on our board is Francis Rath, and we are very appreciative for his knowledge and experience that he brings and his regular involvement and participation. The main changes for fiscal year 24 to 25 of the performance contract is really that it's been changed from performance contract to master agreement. Other changes include consolidation of requirements and removal of duplicative requirements. For example, the developmental disabilities performance measures were moved into one main exhibit, Exhibit M, whereas before they were scattered throughout many of the exhibits. Changes were also made to provide better clarification around substance use and mental health performance measurement requirements and revisions made to Exhibit F and to better reflect federal pass-through terms and conditions. In addition to the performance contract, the state would also send out individual agreements throughout the year for added programming. This caused a lot of confusion and difficulty tracking, so the state has modified Exhibit G in the master agreement to reduce those additional agreements. And Exhibit J was also added to be inclusive of pre-admission screening requirements for certification for our emergency services clinicians that used to be separate from this agreement. Manassas Park is anticipated to contribute $1,160,043 for CSB services and operations in fiscal year 2024. This is set through the shared services allocation process led by the Prince William County Finance Department. And I'd just like to update you briefly on 3 projects that we've been working on that you're probably familiar with. Our Crisis Receiving Center that we are doing on Worth Avenue that will have the 16-bed and 23 hours for adults, and we will also have 23 hours and some beds for youth. We don't have the full funding for youth yet, but we are moving forward. We had awarded the contract to the operations vendor for the Crisis Receiving Center last November, and we've been working with them along with the facilities management on the design, submitting for permitting and finalizing that permitting. We hope that once we get the permit, we will be able to move forward with the IFB requesting a construction company to bid and hope to award the construction company. We're told that it takes approximately 300 days for construction of a project this big, but we'll have more of a timeline around that once the construction award is made. We are hoping to have the occupancy permit late 2024 or early 2025. And then proceed with licensing and co-locating several of our community-based services. Another project that you may be familiar with is we, through a partnership, applied for the Opioid Abatement Authority Partnership Grant, and through the city of Manassas and Manassas Park in the county, and we were awarded funding, which included funding for an opioid coordinator that will work on data analysis and events and activities for our area, as well as enhancing medication-assisted treatment through an office-based addiction treatment, which is the model treatment that will allow people to get into services quicker and expand who we serve. And the third area is we currently have a youth fentanyl awareness campaign happening that started in July. It's called Fentanyl Exposed, and it not only highlights the dangers of fentanyl and how it is laced in various substances, but how to save a life, particularly the life of one of your friends, by teaching naloxone. That will continue till September 15th. We will have some data analysis on that, and we're using the 30-second in movie advertisements in the area from September through November. So I thank you for the collaborations that we've had with Manassas Park and hope to continue and have many more. Are there any questions that you have?
Thank you very much. We really appreciate the collaboration. We appreciate also the good work that you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Questions?
I just-
Councilmember Carrera?
I have two questions. I know I've dealt with CSBs around the Commonwealth of Virginia being on the jail board. I know there's an issue getting staff. How many vacant FTEs are you down?
We average anywhere from 33 to 48. We have last year had a 14% vacancy rate overall. And if you compare that from 2017, 2018, we had a 17 and an 18%. So we work really, really hard on recruiting and filling those vacancies. And we have an amazing team where we have been in better situations than some of our CSBs in the region.
Yeah, some of them are challenging, a lot of them. The other question I have, do you have any issues with the management at Eastern State or Western State getting placement there? Because I know they've come across where you want placement there and the management there is not accepting individuals or staff that need the assistance. Are you seeing that from your end?
So we have challenges getting placements in beds anywhere. That really happened in the middle of the pandemic when the state hospitals took over 200 beds offline, and they haven't put them back fully. And the state has moved to a waiting list, a statewide waiting list everywhere. So our individual may wait for days before they're placed, and the state determines where they're going to go out of region. One of the areas that we've had a challenge with is Northern Virginia Mental Health Institute is actually our state hospital for our region, but Region 2, the area that we're in, we can't get beds there because of the diversions from other CSBs and other regions are taking beds in the state hospital.
And then just one other question. Are you using Suboxone for all of the opioid treatments? Suboxone
and Vivitrol.
And you're using both of them in the adult detention center on intake, correct?
Adult Detention Center has started that, yes.
Has the Juvenile Justice Center started to do that?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Comments or questions? Councilmember Javed, you look puzzled.
Oh, no. Thank you for the presentation. I think the number compared to FY22 was the same compared going forward to FY23?
We're
or our contribution, I guess?
The contribution's higher for FY24. We've shown you some FY22 numbers. We have not completed FY23. This is the end of our budget year. So when I come back next year, because they'll probably change the biennium agreement, so I will be coming back to get that approved next year to sign, I will share with you the 2023. And if I don't come back, we'll make sure you get that.
And do you update the population from the city when you do these proportion?
I believe the county does that because they do the formula for payment. So I believe that they take that into consideration.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Follow up? Okay. Okay. Thank you. I believe that we have a motion with this, and that is that the governing body adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the Prince William County Services Executive Director or designee to sign the FY24, FY25 Community Services Performance Contract with the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you for your patience. We very much appreciate it. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
I might. No, if I have like the closed session, I would leave.
You can't really see, it's just swollen.
Oh, okay.
That's all it
You're gonna
is.
have, like, pus and stuff.
No, it's just swollen, that's all.
Okay. We'll go ahead and get started again after our break. Okay, next on the agenda is consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes of July 18th, 2023, approval of the appointment of Mr. Richard Garrett to the Social Services Advisory Board for a term of 2 years commencing September 1st, 2023, as recommended by the Social Services Advisory Board at its meeting held on July 26th, 2023. Approval of and adoption of a resolution endorsing the city's participation in the Virginia Juvenile Community Crime Control Act as presented and subject to final city attorney review. Adoption of an ordinance declaring 22 vehicles as surplus equipment and authorizing the city manager to dispose of the vehicles in accordance with Article 15, Chapter 2 of the Code of the City of Manassas Park, Virginia, as presented. And adoption of an ordinance declaring 12 voting scanners, including for ADA scanners, as surplus equipment and authorizing the city manager to dispose of the voting scanners in accordance with Article 15 of Chapter 2 of the Code of the City of Manassas Park, Virginia, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to,
Madam Mayor, I have one question.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Yes.
One question on the consent 7C. It's, I guess there's the funding is nothing from the city, correct?
Yeah, it's no funding from the city. That's correct.
So that everything's coming from the state?
Yes.
Okay.
How much are we getting, Laszlo?
About $17,000.
17,000. Okay, thank you. Okay, are we good?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, moving on to, there's no unfinished business, so new business. We'll be voting on the ordinances this evening. So 7B is the ordinance to permit for public assemblies on city streets and sidewalks. Are there any final comments or questions on this? Okay, if there are none, then the staff recommended motion is that the governing body approve and adopt an ordinance to amend City Code 24-5 as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving on to the next one. This is to provide for large gatherings in the city parks. Are there any final comments or questions or comments from staff? No? Okay.
I got one final. So this one, it also said city parks and city-owned property. So it could be essentially in this in front of the city hall. So 200 people unpermitted in front of city hall can gather.
Yes, that's correct. And I
without
think
a permit. But then we need a permit for 50 people.
for the sidewalk. Yeah. And the fire marshal did get back to me, Madam Mayor, so there is no restriction limit on the number of people because it's outside.
Okay.
They only restrict indoor occupancy, but for outdoor, they just want to make sure there's room for ingress and egress for any emergency vehicles coming in.
Okay, thank you. Are you okay, Councilmember?
Well, no, my
Jabez?
question was basically the 200 people, what if it's a protest though? It doesn't say that, so you have 200 people protesting without a permit under this ordinance.
Yes, you can.
But we can't have more than 50 people on the sidewalk, right? But I'm just saying, you see the contradiction though. You can have 200 people gathering in one place.
I think the intention is so you can hold larger events like Friday Night Live because of the number in that plaza area. Is that correct?
Well, that too, but also at the sidewalk, there's a concern getting on the road, right? If there's too many people, so they start obstructing travel ways, where in the plaza, that's, I guess on the plaza, you could argue they can start blocking Park Central Plaza, but we can close that down pretty easily, right? It was designed that way, so you can have other roads.
Well, yeah, for gatherings, it's great. I'm just worried about 200 people gathering for, even if it's saying a peaceful protest, without the city knowledge. I find that kind of
Unnerving?
Yeah, 200 people. You know how many people that is?
Are you scared?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know how what type of people are going to come in a protest for 200 people, right? And you can't assume that they're all going to be peaceful, and you can't have the police department in the dark. That makes no sense to me. I don't know about it.
So you want to have
But Steve, the purpose is to make sure that for safety purposes and of the permit, is to make sure that things are safe and that there's no destruction of property. The idea is that 200 people ought to be able to show up and exercise their First Amendment rights, because that's a small enough number in city parks and other property that it won't be an issue. The only reason we had the 50 for the sidewalks is because more than 50 typically would be spilling out into the streets and making it hard for other people to use the sidewalks. So it's really about safety more than concern about, who's showing up.
Right, I mean, you got a sidewalk in front of City Hall. That's a sidewalk.
Yeah, they can show up they can have 50 on the sidewalk and they could get 200 in the plaza area.
I see. Okay. No further questions. There's a concern with how many people gathering in one place.
We had about 200 people in the last Friday event last Friday, so that kind of gave you a figure of kind of what it looks like. And there was still some available space, I would argue.
Oh, yeah, those are fine because they're planned.
Yeah, no, I'm
And
just
the
saying
whole staff
from a
is
scale.
aware of
yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, staff recommended motion is that the governing body approve and adopt an ordinance to create City Code 17.2-29 as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next one. Amend City Code Chapter 14 to provide for umbrella license for peddlers and itinerant merchants at certain events. Any final comments, questions, etc.?
I just want to clarify that this doesn't apply to food vendors. In other words, you still have to go through the Prince William County to get the food permit.
Yes, the health department permit, yes. You still have to go to the
All
county.
right, just to clarify.
Okay. Staff.
But it does apply to them to be part of the event, though.
Right, so what I'm saying is that just by paying the peddler's license does not exempt you from going to Prince William to get the food license.
Right. That's
Right, okay, that's what I want to clarify.
Staff recommended motion is that the governing body approve and adopt an ordinance to provide for the issuance of an umbrella license for peddlers and itinerant merchants at certain events as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving on to 9E, which is Signal Hill Basketball Court Resurface Project. And that would be, okay. Yeah, good evening, Jay. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body. So before you this evening is a staff recommendation requesting approval to move forward with the Signal Hill Park Basketball Court Resurface Project. This project was originally approved as part of the FY24 CIP budget for $112,000. City staff utilized the city's small purchase procedures to solicit competitive quotes. We received 3 total quotes, 2 of which were complete in nature. Of the 2, Finley Asphalt and Concrete came in at the low bid of $141,065.15. Due to a number of economic factors over the last 10 months, we've seen a 45% increase in the project cost since that time. So we've essentially created a deficit of approximately $29,000 from what was budgeted. In order to avoid future price increases and also to ensure that we can get the project completed in this fiscal year in whole, because it's a multi-phase project, staff is recommending and requesting approval to move forward with Finley Asphalt and Concrete in the amount of $141,065.15, but also requesting approval for the city manager to be authorized to amend the budget at the mid-year point to account for this deficit up to $29 06515. We do have another CIP project that we anticipate coming in about $7,000 below budget if everything goes as planned. That project should also be completed this fall. So we do have some money to fall back on there in the event that that does occur. But we wanted to kind of get your blessing to move forward as soon as possible because in order to get this done, we have a 30-day, the quote is good for 30 days, and we need to kind of commence on the project. So we have time to get it done before the cold season. Otherwise, we're looking at April before we can, basically complete the project.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
Sure.
Any comments or questions? Yes.
Yeah, Jay,
Councilman.
thank you for the report. This is exciting. I'm glad they're going to resurface the basketball courts. But what about the tennis courts at Signal Hill? Where are they on the capital improvement? Because I see a lot more people out there playing, and when we do decide to resurface, I hope we'll make pickleball possible at the tennis courts there at Signal Hill.
Yes, so they're scheduled for next year, for 25.
Okay.
Totally agree with you. We do not have that, a pickleball, the pickleball lines aren't included in the quote that's in the CIP currently, but when we do our updates this year, I intend on getting those, that cost included or to augment that quote because I think that would be a great multi-purpose function to have both options on those courts.
Excellent, thanks.
Comments or questions? No? Okay. Jay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have two motions. The first one is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with Finley Asphalt and Concrete for the resurfacing of the Signal Hill basketball court at a cost not to exceed $141,065.15 as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
Move.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. The second motion is that the governing body direct the city manager to include in the FY24 mid-year budget amendment additional funds necessary up to $29,065.15 for the Signal Hill basketball court resurfacing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thanks. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 9F, police station leak repairs.
Good evening, Mayor Rischel, Vice Mayor Mensing, members of council, residents, staff, and guests. I'm Calvin Odell, the Director of Community Development. If you'll remember back in 20 and 21, there was a lot of discussion about the leaks at the police station. We had been chasing them for quite some time, done a series of roof membrane repair patches, some work to the parapet walls. We had addressed certain penetrations through the roof, trying to fix those leaks, but we just weren't getting anywhere. The leaks were very persistent, and the recommendation from staff was that we bring in a roofing contractor to evaluate and prepare for a total roof replacement. But at that exact same time, the high school was proposing to replace their roof, and the directive from council was that staff seek economies of scale and see if we couldn't combine those two projects into one. The company that assisted the high school with their roof project was Restoration Engineering Incorporated. They came out and took a look at the PD roof, and their first statement out of their mouth was, "You do not need a new roof." We didn't think so. This roof was 2006. It's less than 15 years old. These roofs should last at least 30 to 50 years. There's no reason for a roof replacement. And their recommendation was a comprehensive leak test. So they came out on site later that year, and they did a comprehensive leak analysis, which is essentially building dams, flooding portions of the roof, hosing down parapet walls, hosing down certain flashing assemblies to figure out where water actually, or when water's flowing on the building, where does it actually start to enter at. From that, there was a series of deficiencies noted. Some were in the roofing membrane, some were in the way that the roofing membrane was finished. Some of them were flashing deficiencies. But, a combination of looking at the original building plans and looking at what was going on during the leak test led to a series of repairs, not all involving roofing, a lot of them involving actual work around the building, around the windows, around vent systems and all of that. So it took 6 to 7 months for the contractor, the Restoration Engineering Incorporated, to put together a series of specifications and drawings to address those issues, something that we could put into a bid package to put on the street. But at the same time they were doing all that work and evaluating all these assemblies around the building, they also came to us and said, you've got a lot of caulking issues here, you've got some broken panels, you've got some really ugly precast stone. And I said, well, don't worry about that, guys. We already have a couple CIP projects in place to take care of that. And their response was, well, with these types of improvements that you're going to have, you're already going to have a vendor on site, a contractor on site that's more than capable of taking care of all these things. Don't you think it would be a good idea if we included these in the bid as alternatives, just to see if you can get the economies of scale and take care of them all in one shot? We agreed, so we went back to the drawing board, started revisiting, creating new specifications for that type of work, and we eventually released a bid package that had not just the leak repairs, but also some add-ons for precast stone replacement, window caulking, some panel replacement, things of that nature. We were very pleased to find out that, when we got the results back, we had 8 respondents to that IFB. Of the 8 respondents, the bids ranged anywhere, the base bids for the base work, just to fix the leaks, ranged from $250,000 up to like $875,000. And with the alternates, some of them were right at $1 million, but we still had one contractor that was hovering below $400,000. Simpson Unlimited Incorporated was the low bidder, both on base bid and the selected alternates. Alternate 1 was really going to change the look of the police station. It was going to be a flashing cap that goes over top of the precast stone at the top of the building. No one was really fond of that, and it's not really necessary. It's more like an insurance mechanism. We will be replacing the through-wall flashing directly under that precast cap. So we'll keep the original look, but we're going to improve the work that was done there that allowed the leak to occur in the first place. Altogether, Simpson Unlimited, with the 3 adults that we've selected, they come in at $317,690 or $790 for their total bid. But of course, this is a large project. There's a lot of unforeseens. They haven't started disassembling the building yet, so I'm recommending a 5% contingency be carried to the not to exceed amount. That brings the not to exceed amount up to $333,659.50. And there will be 2 motions to get this approved. Again, we had 2 other CIP projects to address these other issues. One was building caulk and paint at $24,000. One was actual replacement of the precast stone at $48,000. So we zero those line items out in the CIP and simply change this line item to match the actual cost of this contract. And so the first motion would be to approve the contract with Simpson Unlimited for the work, and then the second motion would be to allow for a budget amendment to simply zero those line items out and correct the project line item to the correct amount to handle this work.
Thank you, Calvin. I'm so glad we're being able to address this finally, getting that roof fixed. And fortunately, the city is able to redirect those funds from painting and from caulking and stonework. So, yeah, this is great, finally. Comments or questions?
I just have a question, and I know this has been an issue for a long time. Once they do this, what is the warranty on it? Is it like a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year?
Well, so this is a myriad of different issues. If you were to look through the entire specification package and the drawings, it's a substantial amount of work. If it was one assembly, one system, I could give you that. I could say this roof, this membrane comes with a 20 or 30-year warranty, but this will be spot work all over the building. So there's not going to be really a warranty that a contractor is going to cover because they're essentially getting into
Will
the
they
guts of
guarantee
the
the
building.
spot work where they're doing it at?
So that's
For the
why
spare
we
time.
will have the actual designer, Restoration Engineering Incorporated, their representative, their engineer will be on site. He's actually getting paid for construction related services. So he will be there to supervise the work, make sure that they're doing it the way it's supposed to be done. And if we see any issues while he's doing it, hopefully this 5% contingency will allow us to address those additional issues while they're at it. But I can't tell you that there is a warranty on this type of work.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up? Comments or questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Calvin.
Thank you.
For the first motion is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with Simpson Unlimited Incorporated for police department leak repairs and other outlined repairs as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. The second motion is that the governing body direct the city manager to include in the FY24 mid-year budget amendment an increase of funding for line item 302-100-3170-76-00-00 PD leak repairs to $350,697 and a reduction of funding for both 302-94-100-3182-31-10-00 PD paint, building paint and caulk, and 302-94-100-8181-31-10-00 PD precast stone to $0.00.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And thanks again, Calvin. Okay, moving on to 9G, emergency family care leave.
Okay. Good evening. Last month, we presented, or a couple months ago, we presented the paid parental leave program, where we showed what the other jurisdictions were doing, and made a recommendation to mimic the Falls Church and Loudoun County model, which was a 6-week of FMLA. So FMLA, again, is 3 months, or 12 weeks, if you will, and what we recommended was 6 weeks of that FMLA period be paid by the city to help out our Plan 1 and Plan 2 employees who get 0. Our hybrid employees, again, get 60% short-term disability. At that meeting, it was brought up that we should also provide a program for family care for situations where elderly parents need assistance, your spouse, gets cancer, or your kid is hospitalized for something serious, right? To give that employee an opportunity to spend the needed time with their family, to care for their family and to have that benefit. So in the memo, you see what the other jurisdictions, there are not a lot of these programs out there, but Falls Church and Loudoun do offer something. So Falls Church has kind of like a sick leave bank that they allow employees to tap into for this. And then Loudoun County, very similar to their paid parental leave program, just the 6 weeks of FMLA period is paid by the county versus just, again, the person leaving and not getting paid if they're a paid one or paid Plan 1, Plan 2, or 60% pay if they're a hybrid employee. So what we did was to try to keep this consistent with how we did the paid parental leave, right? So the modification that was made by the governing body for paid parental leave, which was to do the 4 weeks of paid emergency family care leave, just like there's 4 weeks of paid parental leave, but it's a little bit nuanced, a little bit different because birth of a child is different from this kind of care. So there's some caveats to this, right? So it's capped as a one-time benefit. So just like, the birth of that child is capped at 4 weeks for that child, this is capped at the 4 weeks for each.
Can you hold on one second?
Yeah.
I want to make a motion that we table this to a later date.
Okay, can you wait until he completes his presentation?
Do you want to see the presentation? Should we see the presentation?
Are you going to let him finish?
If you want me to, but if you prefer.
Yes, please.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's for each parent gets 4 weeks, each your spouse, and then your children, right? So it's kind of a one-time benefit for each of these family members, but it's also capped at a total of 4 weeks within a 12-month period, right? So if your mom is sick for one period in the year, within a 12-month period, then your dad gets, right? And then we won't have that employee back essentially, right? So we want to cap that, at least that's my recommendation, that in the 12-month period, it's a 4-week total benefit, right? Just like the birth of a child, it's usually a one-time per year occurrence, right? That happens, so we miss that employee for 4 weeks. This is very similar, so for 4 weeks we would miss that employee to care for one of their relatives. Also, the difference here is whereas paid parental leave, it happens 4 weeks consecutively, this could be non-consecutively, right? We've seen with employees in our city that they've taken some time off when they thought their parent was hospitalized and this was the end, and then the parent survived, and then a few months later again back at it again. So sometimes it can occur over a long period. So with this, they don't have to take it in 4 consecutive weeks. They have that bank of 4 weeks to utilize for that relative as they go through their different struggles. And then this just talks about kind of the administrative component where we're going to need some medical notification for why this is needed, right? And then we'll review it as a city manager and HR, and we'll confer any denials with the city attorney as well. So you can see examples, but this is not exhaustive, right? But caring for end-of-life treatment for cancer, Alzheimer, paralysis, and more. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, comments or questions?
I would like to make a motion to table this to a later date. So my motion is to table this at this time and to revisit it at a later scheduled governing body date.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that. I second that.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I think if we have questions regarding this, we're going to email you. But is the 160 hours the norm?
No.
The 1 year?
No. I simply mimic the paid parental leave policy, right? So just like we had a different program with paid parental leave policy than what Loudoun Falls Church did, right?
Yeah.
You guys came up with a different policy than what I was recommending or what they had, right? All I'm doing is just mimicking that same policy for this as well.
Okay.
Are we allowed to ask questions if something's been tabled?
Yeah,
I would think so, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The last paragraph, as far as the doctor's note, and there's no HIPAA violations if you have that information on a person's medical condition?
I'll have to talk with Dean about it, but how else would we allow someone to?
I hear you.
They have to prove it if we're going to be paying them for 4 weeks to.
I think usually there's a form, if I remember correctly.
Eric.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Dean question.
Yeah, let me confer with Dean and
That's a question
Francis.
I had about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a legality issue with asking for a doctor's note.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't think you can ask employee for a doctor's note. I don't know if Valerie has something to say about that.
It would be maintained confidential in the file, but we need to have
Microphone.
Valerie, you got to come to the mic.
We would need to have some sort of documentation to, validate the need. I'll consult with the city attorney, but in order to know, how it's to be approved, we would need documentation.
Yeah, it's a benefit program, so something we're giving to them, right? So if they want it, they should facilitate us in the decision making to grant it, right? We have to know that this is occurring, right? Something's occurring, so we can provide them the support.
And maybe it could be general, not specifying that they have Alzheimer's or that they have whatever, just saying that the doctor just says that they need this leave.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
But I think that's where we
makes
get the
sense, yeah.
problem when they talk
there's
about
a
the medical
catastrophic
condition.
Yeah, catastrophic medical
Yes.
condition
There
for this
won't be any
relative, and they need to.
specificity at all. No.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I know that years ago when I was considering doing FMLA for when my father was quite ill, it was a form. The organization I worked for had a form that I would have to take to his doctor, and they'd have to fill it out. But if I remember correctly, they didn't ask his specific issue.
Just that he needs the help.
Right.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. Okay.
And the role as caretaker or whatever it was.
Okay.
All right. Other questions? Okay, thank you, Laszlo. Okay. We have now come to public comment time, our second public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment?
Ran everyone away.
Okay, I would like to make a gentle reminder to the governing body to please give consideration to the issue of the Prince William, participating with the Prince William County Human Rights Commission. I know I sent an email, and I think Mike was the only one who responded, but I think a work session would be nice because city attorney could answer questions, but if you don't want a work session, that's okay too. Do we need more information? If you want to go forward, do you want to end it right now? I mean, be thinking about what you want to do so that we'll know how to go forward on this, okay? And whatever your decision, I will contact Mr. Torres. They've been very patient, but I think to be as respectful as possible, I should give Mr. Torres an answer within the next several weeks, you know, if we're going to not proceed. So anyway, okay, city
Madam,
manager.
you have my previous emails.
I beg your pardon?
So you have my previous emails on the matter, right?
I thought we answered all those questions.
Oh, yeah, just my thought on the subject.
Okay, okay.
But I could send another one.
Yep, please do,
Yeah.
please do. So, okay, city manager's report.
Just two things pretty quickly tonight. Just wanted to thank all the staff, especially Melissa, for the last Friday event. Last Friday was very well attended. It was fun for the community. So we're excited about all the downtown events that we're rolling out for the community. And then secondly, we'll be doing the departmental annual reports to you all starting at the second meeting in September. So wrapping up FY23 with operational statistics.
Okay, okay. Dean, can you read us into closed session?
I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting to discuss the assignment of a specific city employee, and secondly, the salary of a specific city officer, both pursuant to paragraph 1 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Okay, do we have a motion? Moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Do we need a 5-minute break? No. Can you speak a little louder, please? Okay. Nobody needs, okay. We're good.
After the holiday, yeah. The older guy that's going right there for you. That's how